moon, she's hanging low. I hear an echo through the trees, I'm finding my flow. Well, she's on fire for you. Your heartbeat splits.
Hi guys to everyone, it's Ada from Poison Rock, just me, and I give a welcome back finally after a little bit again of insisting to Richard from SIIGA. I'm chasing you all the time. How are you, Richard?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you for asking. I think I was looking at our exchanges this morning. I think it's been almost exactly a year since I spoke to you. Almost, I
Yeah,
think. I think maybe, or 10 months or something. Anyway,
yeah,
when I spoke to you last, it's kind of good timing. I think when I spoke to you last, only the first song was maybe out or something. I
oh,
think it was the beginning of the releases. I can't remember, but I
yeah,
don't think we talked about music. We just talked about the weather
life.
and
Yeah, no, well, yeah,
life, yeah, exactly, and
yeah, yeah.
everything other than everything apart from music. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
it's been a
exactly.
while.
And it's if people may ask, like, and say it's really sunny from where you are. It's kind of raining. You mentioned like it's kind of a great
It's,
day.
we're going to talk about it, are we? Okay.
I'm in
Yeah,
the
it's
dark.
absolutely. It's the worst. You can tell by my complexion. It's the worst summer in Scotland. I mean, I'm very lucky because I sort of split my time nowadays between here and warmer climates in France. But I have been here for the last, I think, what is it now, June? So I've been here for the last 3 months, and I think probably seen about a week of sunshine properly in that time. It's been just. It's
No.
hard work. It's hard work. I mean, for me, actually, it's been fine because I've been so busy. And actually, I was talking about this
Good.
to someone the other day. Scottish weather, I think I can say this with the luxury of being able to kind of come and go from it, but it does make you more productive because I have this inherent kind of sort of default. If it's a nice day, I just want to drop everything and be outside doing something. So when the weather's nice, I get absolutely nothing done. So to be
It,
honest, it's actually probably been quite good for me to be sort of holed up in the rain a wee bit and the cold because I'm just like working away on things. But I'm ready for a change of it.
I think it's the opposite here because I drop out whatever the curtains because weird animals was crashing in my windows. But uh, it's when it's sunny here we hide from the sun because it's warm, 40 degrees almost. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go out
Mm.
in the dark. But we are not cold.
It's No, you're not cold. I remember, I mean, I was living full time in the Mediterranean, and now I'm there, like, on and off throughout the year. But when I was there all the time, and I would speak to friends, particularly back here, and it was
Yeah,
the summer, and they would be like, oh, the weather's crap, and
yeah,
they would sort of be almost slightly envious of me being in this weather. And I used to say to them, don't be, because I'm stuck inside. I'd be inside with the shutters closed, trying to keep everything cool, living like a
yeah,
bat. I
exactly.
mean, I'm in the shit weather and I look like I'm in the light. You're in Sicily looking like you're living in the bat cave.
Yeah, but also we have the air conditioner on because it's warm.
You got the air conditioner on.
I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
put the foot
yeah.
outside today, but I have to. So yeah, okay. So we started with a usually
We've
weather
we've
forecast.
done our weather forecast. I feel like that's a ritual now for our
I mean,
conversations.
it has to be it's like all people start to talk about weather. We have to do that, of course.
Listen, it's a Scottish problem. I think every Scottish person on the planet is obsessed with the weather because it's a wonder that we are so cheerful. I think I was watching the football with the World Cup
Yeah,
on, and everyone's talking about how great the Scottish fans are, which is true. But I also have a bit of a suspicion that our fans are always really happy because they're just glad to be in sunshine when they travel abroad. So they're always in a great
yeah.
mood. It gives them a bit
Finally,
of extra boost.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
complain about the weather about Scotland, but you can complain about the landscaping. So
No, the landscape I can't complain about, that's for sure. It's
yeah,
very
there was a
beautiful.
robot climbing into the mountain, right?
Yeah, that's right. I did. I've been I don't know if this is a word you'll be familiar with. I'm going to claim it as a Scottish word, but we have a word called gallivanting. Have you ever heard that before?
No,
Gallivanting.
no.
It's like a word that you would use for like just like taking strutting around, I suppose, marching around so I've been gallivanting around Scotland dressed as a robot. I've been up mountains and in the snow. I think that all probably has happened since I last spoke to you, actually. I was very secretive about the robot when I spoke to you last time because it hadn't really been properly revealed or
Yeah,
so I couldn't.
the
Yeah, I couldn't
robot,
say too
yeah.
much about it. It was still a kind of bit of a secret really at that point. But yeah, I've been all over the place. I've been out in the middle of the desert and in California. I've been up mountains in Scotland, and I was in France with it. So yeah.
And when you were filming, like it happened, there were people around you, like, what was that? Or it
Yeah,
was,
there's a few stories definitely that I had some reactions to it. My friend and really talented collaborator on all of this is an American, well, she lives in Los Angeles. She's an American costume designer called Sarah Jean Janey, and she built the thing. We kind of worked on the concept and everything together, but she actually physically constructed it. She had some help with bits and pieces, but it was her creation really, and. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey to bring him out into the world. It
oh,
took about a year of us just doing video calls like this, and it was all very secretive at the time. Still is a little bit because we haven't fully released everything that we've done with him yet. But now it's kind of a bit more known. I think that
yeah,
we made this thing, but it was really a pushback against being told that. AI was going to replace us as artists, and so I
yeah.
had a real kind of I took a bit of I had a bit of a problem with being told that,
What was it?
and so no, what do you mean? Sorry.
Like you get like people might have think that was a AI instead of actually being.
Yeah, they wanted to think. I think when we made the robot, and certainly still, there's a little bit of it where I think folk just kind of brushed it off as AI, which was kind of the point, really, and still is a wee bit. It was. I always kind of described it as a Trojan horse I wanted to build. I remember talking to Sarah about this
Yeah,
idea, and actually, the record even has that with some of the tracks where I wanted to make this thing that I could kind of put out into the online world and
yeah,
it would sort of be out there.
absolutely.
I mean, there was lots of reasons why it started. I mean, one of the fundamental reasons the idea started was because I hated being on social media. And so I was kind of like thinking if I'm going to start releasing music again, I'm going to have to do all this shit where it's like, hey guys, come and watch. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do that anymore. And I thought, how can I be everywhere?
But
And
no,
nowhere at the same
yeah,
time. Yeah, and I kind of thought I need a character, I need something. So then that kind of began, and then I also, I mean, I can say this now probably, but there was a period of time where I was being called a bit of a tinfoil hat wearer. People say conspiracy theorist on a
yeah,
couple of things, and yeah. So I remember thinking, you want a tinfoil hat? I'll give you a fucking tinfoil robot. So I was gonna make a big cardboard box and just put tinfoil around it and make it into a really crappy robot. Originally, that was sort of before I met Sarah. And I was going to go to Sky and just walk about with this thing, but then there was a whole side adventure, and it became this unbelievable. I mean, it's been an unbelievable adventure. Really, it's probably been one of the most uh,
yeah.
grueling and incredible creative journeys of my life so
Yeah.
far with the robot.
Because the work she made is stunning. It's detailed. It doesn't look it look flawless. So let's say that.
There's a lot of work went into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot
So
of
let's
work.
say that let's make a shout out to this woman because that's not easy to make as a
I
woman.
mean, Sarah deserves, yeah, I mean, Sarah deserves so much credit.
Yeah,
And, my real plan is to really push forward just how much she did with that. She's been so gracious to kind of just sit quietly and sort of let me kind of get on with things with it. I watched her build this thing over the course of a year. It was in the middle of they had the Hollywood strikes that so she
okay, yeah,
works
yeah, yeah.
she works yeah, so she worked on at the time I met her, she was working on a TV show, on Amazon Prime called The Boys, which is
Yeah.
like a superhero show, and she was part of the team that work in the construction of they call them super suits. And so anyway, we kind of obviously we sort of got in touch with each other, and both were kind of at a point, I think, in our life. I don't want to speak too much for her, but I do think that, you know, she was in a point of her life where she was the work had stopped because of the
Of course.
strikes, and I think she wanted to get into something that she felt she could really sort of invest herself in. And we both were feeling kind of very
Mhm.
strongly about this idea of AI and all of that. So we just kind of collided at the right moment. And then it was just like, it became like a kind of, I mean, I'm always full of ideas anyway, but I'd sort of finally met somebody in that instance that I felt we were almost like,
On the
not
same level.
competitive in a
Yeah.
bad way, but in a good way, where it was like, well, what about that? And then she would say, well, what about that? And I say,
And
well, what about
you,
that? So before we knew it, it's like you know, it was growing literal arms and legs, this thing, and it became this huge project. And you know, I watched her just like, I mean, she made the costume from scratch. It's like all flat pieces of material, nothing, everything's custom. The jacket was like, you know, when I met her, I said, I want to make this robot, and I gave her this sort of basically I gave her the sort of brief that I had in my
yeah.
mind was I wanted to make a cross between Evil Knievel, who was like an old 60s
Okay.
stuntman or whatever. I said Evil Knievel crossed with Ziggy Stardust, crossed with
Okay.
Prince, and he's like this rock star robot from the future. There's a whole story as to why he's wearing an old battered Sega t-shirt.
Yeah.
He's covered in like the whole project between the music and the visuals is absolutely covered in what we call Easter eggs, little nods to certain things from
Yeah.
things that I grew up with and was really into as a kid, films and music and things like that. So he's got badges on his lapel. There's hidden messages even in his in the fabric. There's all sorts of detail to it. So when you're saying about the detail is flawless. And I remember the first time I saw it. I've been looking at this thing develop between us
From
over the
afar.
course of a year on a video call. But I remember when I flew to Los Angeles to collect it and then go and do the filming together. And I remember the first day I saw it and saw it in real life, and I was just like, I mean, I couldn't believe it. She had it up on a mannequin kind of set
Yeah.
up in the room. There was a sort of
You
a room
have
for me to try it all on for the first time. Uh, but I remember walking in and I was like, fuck.
it's
I
the
was like, I've been
superhero.
looking at this. Yeah, but the thing about it was what I looked at it and I don't know why. I should never have even doubted her because she's just such a talented person. But I thought, oh yeah, you're going to see on like screen it's going to look real. But I thought in person I'll be able to see like, you know, that it's like homemade or whatever. But like when I saw it in real life, it looked like it's like it's immaculate. Everything is just like
Perfect.
it
Yeah.
looks like a fucking robot, you know. And you're like, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's absolutely it's a work of art. I mean, I think I said to her, I said, this thing is gonna. As far as I'm concerned, it should end up in a museum one day on display because it's
Yeah.
incredible. It's amazing. It's
Or,
amazing. What
or
she
you
made
will
was
keep it for you
amazing.
and walking sometimes around France or Europe.
Walking around. It's very difficult to put on. I've had people say to me, "Oh, are you going to bring that? You're going to wear that?" It's not a easy thing to. There's a lot involved in it. It's not simple. It's not like a fancy dress costume, and it's given me a lot of respect for these actors you see that wear these things. And you know, I mean, I was wearing that thing in a 110-degree heat in the desert, trying to drive a car with limit. It was. I mean,
Yeah,
it
because
was
the
not.
view also was
Vision's difficult,
yeah.
breathing's difficult, it's hot. Your hands, because it has like robot kind of hands, you're limited in your movements. So it's not just a case that I'll just go and chuck the robot suit on. No, it's a full job. In fact, the funny thing was, I remember I filmed and I took it back with me to Scotland, and I had this idea in my head. I wanted to walk across the top of the mountains and sky in it, and I thought, because I thought, what is the most extreme thing I can do to prove this thing's real? You know, and I thought
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the top of the fucking mountain and I'm gonna fly a drone around the scene, even if it only takes 5 minutes. And it took, so I've got a friend in Skye who's a really great photographer called Hamish Morrison, and he's into going out in the outdoors, and
Yeah.
he's you know
Okay. So,
he's got courage, you know. He's a guy
oh,
that's so you know
that's
he's so I thought he's the guy for it, you know. And so I asked him. But it'd been funny because about a year previously, his father's got a bar, an amazing bar in Skye, and it used to be my kind of regular haunt, but not so much anymore. But I certainly used to be there a lot drinking, and there was one night we were sitting having probably too many drinks, and I'd been keeping quiet about this robot, but I was kind of a bit drunk, and I was like, "I've been making a fucking robot in America," and they were like, "Ah," and I was says, "Oh, I've
About
been
the
making this
song.
robot." Yeah, yeah, and I was like, I'm sitting in Sky. I was like, "Yeah, I've been working this robot in America, and with this, costume designer it works," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And so I said to Hamish, I says, "When it's finished, I'm going to phone you, and we're going to go and do something with it." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." And anyway, I remember it was like a year later or something and I phoned him up and I texted him, I can't remember one or the other, and I said, "The robot's ready." And I was like, "Do you want to see it?" And I sent him some pictures of it, and he was kind of like, "What
Okay.
the fuck?" He was like, he said, "I knew you'd make it because you said you were doing it, but I didn't expect this." So he agreed to come out. So we did this amazing video up with the Old Man of Storr. But the funny part was Amos has got this van that he's converted into a camper, It's a really
Yeah,
cool van. And he's done it all himself, and it's really really cool. So I said, let's meet up. So I thought, so it
let's
was
go with that.
fucking freezing. It was the middle of winter, so it was freezing cold, snow, beautiful, but it was cold. So I met him, and he had this like kind of camper, and so he had the heaters on and everything. It was nice and warm. So we thought we'll sit in there and make a plan what we're going to do. So I get in the back of the van and I start putting this fucking thing on, and I'm getting all dressed up in it and that's fine. And now I'm 6'2", so I'm quite tall anyway. But the robot has got like big like shoes, and it's
Yeah,
also so it adds a good bit of height to me. So I kind of got this thing on, and I put the helmet on, the last thing, put the hood up, and then I kind of stood up in his van, and he says it's quite disconcerting this thing. Like he was like fucking
I
kind of a
can
bit
do it.
like. And yeah, he was kind of a bit like Jesus, because it is when it's on. Like the reaction is often kind of like fuck. People are quite intimidated by it, which I kind of again wanted because I remember saying to
Yeah,
Sarah, in my mind, this thing could be this futuristic kind of killing machine or something, but we've turned it into this like
right.
newborn child that's
Yeah,
like completely like in the wonder of the world and covered in all this kind of sparkly, amazing kind of 80s tinged kind of stuff, and the idea of the sort of future technology and retro technology. He's got a cassette with the SIIGA record on that he's found in the future, and so there's all of this kind of sort of backstory to it. But yeah, sorry, a very, very long answer again to your question. People when they see
doesn't
it,
matter. Like
not very many.
yeah,
Children react to it much better, actually. Not that many people have actually seen it in real life because we've always been very, very careful of where we've done it and when we've done
yeah,
it, and
okay.
we've been kind of very private about it. So it's not like I just go walking down the street and it's set up
Let's do
properly.
some
But
grocery with
there
that. Like,
do some groceries with it. Yeah,
ah,
yeah, yeah. I guess that we were going to maybe reserve that if the project failed, which thankfully it hasn't. It was going to be like, right, I'll do children's parties with it instead. Fuck it. But but the two times we've had when Sarah and I went out with it. Actually, we
the,
did a little bit of a test run in Los Angeles one night, and there was a old retro video game store that we'd
okay,
spotted, and it had this amazing neon sign above the door, and it said
yeah.
1989 vintage on it. And I was kind of like, we should try and take some photos of them there or do something there with them just because it looked really cool. So we thought, fuck it, we'll go down. So the two of us kind of just went just for fun, really, to try it out that night, and it was like in yeah, just in this kind of suburb of Los Angeles, near where Sarah lived. And so we went, and I jump out, and I've got the thing on, and whack on
On
Sarah's got a camera, and I was standing in it, and I couldn't quite see properly. And then I just heard this little voice going, "Is that a mannequin?" Like that. And I kind of turned around, and there was this little girl like that, just looking up at me, and her like sister or something. And they were like the most like stereotypical little American children. They were there, like they looked cool. Had this amazing like little like day glow clothes
yeah.
and night, and they were there with like little pigtails, and they were selling chocolates and stuff. and I kind of looked down at them as the robot, and they kind of like this, and so they were like, and then I kind of thought, God, I don't want to scare them, so I sort of popped the thing up, and I went, it's okay, and they were like, wow, wow. I said, do you want a picture? So they were like, yeah. So I've got this photo. I need to
You
dig it out actually. And there's like me. They're the first people, first humans outside of us that
for
saw this thing. And
humans.
they're and actually the funny thing was, yeah, the funny thing was that they were really quite sort of taken aback. But then the minute I asked if they wanted a picture, they're like doing this and like pouting and posing next to the robot.
I thought that you were
So we
doing
had
some
those children.
Hollywood production.
I don't know what they thought it was. Probably just some strange guy. But the other one story I remember with the child seeing it. There's only been two, but there was actually when I was in France last year. I was going to do some filming with it, and it's in these like flight cases.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of boxed and kind of, So I had it with me, and the helmet is in this kind of case because it's very, very. I mean, it's a
Very.
one-off. There's nothing else like it. It's the only one in existence. So it's an amazing piece of kit. But anyway, I'd been, I was staying in this apartment. We were out in the middle of nowhere in France, and there was a family of Germans that I'd met a few nights before, and they were
Yeah.
staying in an apartment that was in the top of this building that kind of looked out. Anyway, I'd been having a few drinks with them. They were lovely people, but they had these, a girl and a boy. And the wee boy, I can't remember his name now, but he was a really cute little kid, and he was a wee boy, and he was always like Richard, 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 like that, just like all the time, right? And anyway, so in the in the morning, I was, and I hadn't, told anybody that I was doing this. So I got up very early because I was going to go out and do some filming and meet somebody to do it. And so I was at the back of my car, and I was kind of just making sure I had everything like correct. I was like, oh, is that there and that's there. So I've got the head is sitting on the wall, and it's like that, And so anyway, I'm like, I hear this kind of voice, and it's Richard, Richard, like that, and I'm like, and I look up, and he's like this, looking over the balcony, and I went, and he went, "Are you Iron Man?" Like that to me, and I just went like that to him, and I put the helmet in the box and closed it, and went in the car. Never said anything else, and
I deserve
I thought after. I thought afterwards, I thought he's probably going to be like 25 at some point, and he's going to go, remember that weird guy that was like outside? What the?
yeah, because the kids' imagination is endless. So when we are kids,
Exactly.
we think about, we create stories about everything, like, or we see things and we believe actually it could be something else. Maybe thought that you were coming from another space, or you're a superhero or something. Who knows? And I said,
That was a superhero.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
You
went
thought,
to his friend and said, I met a superhero. I met some.
Mhm.
It could be.
That's what he said. He says he thought it was Iron Man, I think he said. But it's funny what you say there though, because that child imagination is something that I think that I've made sure I've never lost.
Welcome to
You
the
know,
club.
it's yeah, I think that's one of the most incredible things any of us get is that kind of limitless imagination as a child.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
I think this whole project really is
Yeah.
kind of the embodiment of childhood imagination, really, and reflecting it. But yeah,
But
so
we lose
yeah,
the imagination, like even still today, like keeping that imagination, that creativity when we are kid. We can make up stories. I mean, even
yeah,
from nowhere. Like when I was a kid, I remember having those kind of Barbies and put it all together and pretending to be a
yeah.
teacher. So today we are gonna learn. Just taking my friends, forcing my friends, like 5 years old, to make kind of movie thing. It wasn't making like a script. Like you have to do this, you have to do that. Just um,
It's funny though. You're right, but do you know what the amount of people that over the last year of doing this robo that I've gotten into conversation with, and it's ended up exactly like that, where they've started
yeah,
telling me stories about something to do with when they were a kid. They're, "Oh, I used to do this with this or that." It's I don't know whether it's an age thing that you get to a point, that was the whole nostalgia burns kind of thing, but you know,
Yeah.
you definitely start looking back and kind of, if you're lucky enough to have a nice childhood, it's like you do
Good
reflect on
memory.
it a lot. But I
Yeah,
do think imagination, is kind of, particularly with AI and stuff, there's kind of like, I feel like the imagination, it's just like, that's something that robots and AI will never be able to do, It's like,
no, because they're based
it's
on
that kind
data.
of yeah, and it's based on our data as well. It's not based
Yeah,
on original experiences. It's based
exactly.
on a mishmash of all sorts of stuff.
If you try to talk with the most common ChatGPT, give him a script or whatever you want, it will always give you answer that are based on what you taught him. People train. Yeah, so it's never
Yeah,
something spontaneous. I mean, what we have about arts, music, arts in general is creativity being spontaneous. So even sometimes AI can, if you talk, I don't know if it ever happened to you to talk with ChatGPT. It's really weird because they have a kind of answers and reply to what you ask. Like, what do you think? Like, that looks like a really humanish way. I'm like, what the fuck did you
mm.
ask? Because
I
that's
think yeah, I have. Yeah, I felt.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I mean, because this project has been and is still, ongoing, has such a kind of theme around the idea of AI and what I think potentially the kind of future of that may be. But so I felt like it was important to do a little bit
yeah,
of due diligence and kind of try it and see
thank
what
you.
it could do and all of these things. I wasn't going to be one of these people who's just like, fuck AI, but I was like, no, give me it here, let me try it and see what. So I've messed around with Chat GPT. I have to say that for me, well, the first thing I noticed about it, which I thought was interesting, was that it really was it massaged your ego a lot.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't ever particularly critical of you. So that's attractive. If you're
yeah,
somebody that's, if you're unsure of something, if you're gravitating towards an instrument like that to kind of look for an answer, generally, I would imagine you're probably not totally sure of your own kind of conviction and
exactly,
on what you're doing. So then, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you then get a very soft, cuddly sort of answer, that's very comforting and it's going to make you want to use it again. I feel like it's designed
exactly.
to encourage you to want to use it. It's not going to turn around and say to you, actually, Richard, that idea is kind of shit, or like
No,
that
no, no.
melody line's kind of
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, it cannot
Which
stop you.
sometimes you need to hear. It's like it's not, it can't all be that we just get our kind of asses licked all the time. It's kind of like you need constructive feedback. So when anytime I tried to use it, it gave me a very, and I fucked with it a bit as well. I was like asking it really insane questions and kind of seeing and it was coming back to me kind of like sort of very kind of like trying to constantly assure me that I was
Yeah,
a good person and all that. And I was like,
yeah,
fuck this thing, man. I was like, I don't need a fucking pile of nonsense in a computer to give me this kind of, so, and I think it's helpful. I've used it for like to me it's just a fucking glorified calculator. I'm like, use it for the shit that, like, how many rainy days has there been, and but then I could find that out on Google. It's just a quick route to do that.
yeah,
But am I going to go and look for a creative idea out of it? Not a chance. There's just not, there's nothing. I'm not lacking in ideas that I need
exactly.
that thing to inspire me. I would rather invest my time going out and experiencing something to write about than
Don't
fish
forget that.
around and
Yeah,
yeah.
the
So
idea.
but it's in early stages,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
our Sarah and I discussed this over and over and over and over,
yeah,
and I'm hoping that we can talk about it together at some point or another. But it's we had this idea in our head that in the future physical art would become like contraband, illegal.
yeah.
It'd be like, and we sort of imagined this kind of future where like physical
You,
things become, it's like you're not allowed these anymore. It's like you must have everything on your digital, and
yeah,
so we
I'm
had all
thinking
of these, there's all
driver
sorts of
license.
concepts, which is interesting.
Yeah,
It's
driver
interesting.
license.
I mean, I could, sorry, I'm talking over you. I
No,
was
no,
just
no.
was
I'm
going to
saying
say I
that
could talk about it all.
I live here, still in Sicily. We are a little bit, with the cash, still walking. But I saw, like in general, when I was even in Norway, everyone had a ID the driver license, any type of document in the phone. I'm like,
uh,
what?
uh,
If
uh,
the cop stop me, I have my, here you are. I can never have
mhm.
things, and I can.
I know what you mean, because I think that probably Italy is probably, I think it's probably similar to rural parts of southern France in this respect, that it's that old Latin kind of system. So it's very much more
Exactly.
paperwork and things involved.
I don't know
Digital
if it
ID,
ever happened
yeah.
to you to use ChatGPT also for ask question, like stupid question. But there are people, guys, a teenager, I think, even in their 20s, for me, are teenager, that they are asking about like, personal life advices, using a ChatGPT as a therapist, like, like
Yeah.
so. What?
Scary. I mean, that is, it's kind of scary though. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, it's true. I mean, the thing about that I find sad about that is not that people are using it, it's that there is a need for that, clearly,
exactly.
that people are feeling that disconnected and feeling that in need of somebody to talk to, that they'll
Yeah,
actually, they'll resort to that as and it just screams loneliness, which is,
yeah,
heartbreaking in life anyway. I mean, I spend my whole time writing songs about the idea of loneliness. And so the idea of that, I think, I kind of feel like with the robot, I kind of wanted to reverse that concept. He's the only, he's almost like the last man on earth. So the loneliness almost of the
yeah.
machine in the humanless world, is interesting to me. But yeah, the Chat GPT, it's
Oh, whatever.
like I say, it's not going to go away anywhere. So we have it now. It's the world plus Chat GPT, but how we go forward using it, it'll be interesting to see. But like I
Yes, it does.
say, I think that's what we were talking about, was like trying to use it for anything artistic. For me, it's yeah, I remember somebody saying to me about songwriting. They're like, oh, you can write a song. I was like, well,
Yeah, no,
you
I
can.
witnessed to someone, sadly, no, I don't want to say sadly, because sometimes maybe, I don't know, you're in a rush, I don't know, you don't have the idea, I don't know. And or maybe it was missing the singer part, something, that of course the composing part was of the artist, but some parts were filled with AI singer, so musician, like vocal. And it was looking like this colossal music for theater, that you're like, wow. And of course, when it comes to that, the voice is perfect. The voice is kinda in between. I don't know, was metal, was soprano, was something Linkin Park, something that you can recreate it with. And I remember asking me, do you know someone that sings like that? Like, no, no one can sing like that, because this is not real.
For
So
real.
for this person became difficult finding a musician, a singer that could do the vocal for this
Mhm.
whatever project it was.
Yeah, I suppose there's a
Yeah,
place in that way. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not going to judge anybody for doing whatever they want.
of
I think
course.
the only thing I will say is that I suppose the only reason that I'm able to write songs that, it seems that they connect people. I get messages every single day of my life now from people telling me how a song has connected with them through some sort of
Yeah,
message. And that only happened because I lived a human life and had all of the
exactly.
ups and the downs, more downs than ups a lot of the time, in order to be able to kind of
Yeah,
write these
right,
songs and all of that, and then expand that to being able to learn an instrument and learn how to record, and then expand that when you start working with other people in their lives and all of that. So it's the culmination, and then not even to mention the visuals, as well, with Sarah and her life. And it's the culmination of,
yeah,
of human lives and experiences. And
exactly, of experience. Yeah,
anybody that thinks that they can just like cram that all into like a, 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 a hard drive of some description, and then
yeah,
just like kind of pull it out like it's going to be some endless font of original ideas,
no.
I don't think
And
it can work.
also,
And and you can't connect with that, I don't
I
think.
try that with the
Sorry.
writing. I try that with the writing. Sometimes you kind of become like, okay, I have to write some caption for 2 words. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. I've been writing since I was a kid, baby, and I told you I was
Yeah.
texting my friend and doing a script like with script, and I was seeing that thing that okay, could it be you know what is ChatGPT writing or is AI writing? Okay, could it be beautiful words, well put it, but I was writing poetry, so I needed a poetry that wasn't feeling me. So there was missing the soul,
Yeah.
So it's like even if it doesn't rhyme, even if it's a mess, even if it's wrong grammar, I just gonna
The
write
beauty
it
of
myself.
the idea, the beauty of, I mean, this is going to sound very kind of this could sound very corny, but I don't really care. I mean, the beauty of humanity is the imperfection,
No,
is the scars, is the wounds, is the things not
exactly,
being perfect. That's what makes it
exactly.
human. And I think this is going to be probably the next interesting thing will be these developers are going to probably have to find a way to try and program imperfection
Yeah,
into
reveal,
their machines
like
because
reveal.
yeah, and it's like it's that thing. But the thing is, it may well come, because like I remember for years as a musician being told that digital would never be able to replace analog. And I subscribe to that myself. I'm very much into analog technology, but I will say that, the technology now in this 2026 has come to a point where some digital emulation of like vintage equipment is almost indistinguishable. I mean, if you're really listening to it in a very kind of analytical way, you can still do it, but your general day-to-day, like just listener is not going to notice that. So, mate, but the thing is that that's because they've tried to develop ways to put imperfections into digital
Yeah,
technology. So that is where humanity comes from, and it's about things having an end also.
of course.
I think that there has to be a death of things for it to have a meaning.
I mean,
This all these built.
we are the generation that we started with the first. I mean, yeah, there was the tape, there was the VHS, and then we had the
Yeah.
CD compact disc, and we had the DVD, and we had Napster. We had the first computer connection with the was it 56K with the internet
Yeah.
really slow, and you have to stay
Mhm.
connected 1 hour per week because it was like, oh, why I'm on internet. What's that? And you couldn't stay 24 hours per seven because the phone was always like you were in a call.
That's right. And it
Yeah,
was expensive as well. It
yeah.
was
Oh, it was really
expensive.
expensive. I remember my dad for Christmas saying to me, "I give you 4 hours." I'm like, 4 hours? That's my Christmas present.
That's your Christmas. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Rationing you on the internet. I remember, you're right, actually. I'd
yeah,
forgotten about that. But I mean, my mother was not she was not well off with money. So it was like we didn't have the internet in our house for a long time. And she worked in an office in the village that I grew up in, and she worked for the Gaelic language. She worked for, there was a university that was a Gaelic, well, it's a kind of college, a Gaelic college on the island, and she worked for them. And so in her office there was a old computer, and it had, I can't remember what was it called? Net. It'll come back to me anyway. But there was the browser that was on it anyway.
okay.
It had the dial-up thing, and you would hear it, tuck, 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 tuck,
Yeah,
tuck,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
and yeah, and I remember like someone saying to me there was this thing, the internet, and I was like, what the fuck, what is it, and so I remember actually stealing my mum's office keys one night, and I walked down to
Yeah,
her office, and I opened it and I went in and I went onto the internet and I was like, wow. And the first thing I did was I found a website. I remember I can't remember what it was called now, but it was basically, it would give you the tab for the guitar for any
yeah,
song.
yeah. I
Like
had
people
that
were uploading this thing, yeah. But it was really, really basic. Like it was all these
line.
they'd used like, yeah, lines and shit. Yeah, exactly. So, but I remember I was like, what? Because I'd like been trying to learn the guitar just from like listening to stuff my whole life. I couldn't read music, and then suddenly there was this thing called tablature or whatever, and
Yeah,
they'd done it,
tablet.
and these,
Yeah,
yeah, and these people would do this like kind of thing. And I was like, what, you can just put any song in it. And so like I started typing these songs. So I remember the first night I sat there and I think I emptied her fucking printer. I was just printing all these like
Yeah, because you were
things.
printing the things. I still
Printing, yeah, I
print.
was printing them, and I had like I was using her paper clip. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I was there for about 3 hours, and I just like went through and I downloaded or whatever. I didn't even download it, went on them, and I think you could download at the time. So I printed all these things, and I came back, and I was like, I put the key back, and I remember it was like 2 or 3 days later, she came back from work, and she said to me, "Did you go into my computer at work?" And I went, why?" She said, it's cost. I got a message that there's a bill, and I don't know how much it cost because I'd just been on it for. It was really, they'd only been using it for emails and stuff.
Yeah.
And she said, and we went on, and she says there was all these windows open of guitar. She says it wasn't me, and I was like, so I got as we say, I got a bit of a bollocking for that. So
Yeah, that's
I was,
from the yeah
uh,
kid.
so I was stealing paper to
Yeah,
print off the songs,
but at
but
the same, like
yeah,
I'm noticing these things also like with a lot of right now is coming back for the new generation, these 90s whatever vintage. It's weird saying 90s vintage because we were growing up in 90s. It was like 10, 11, 15. So when you were using those things, like like the CD, the stereo tape,
yeah,
they are selling it online again. Like, no, I had that one. Like, I have 10 of those in my house. Like, like it's weird, but also think that our parents could have think the same of us, maybe with the vinyl on things.
yeah,
But also, like, it's so many, like young girls when they found those old cabin, phone cabin, like the old that you're supposed to call them the old phone cabin phone.
phone cabin. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
one. And they took photo in there, like because here we have kind of. I mean, we are in Sicily. We have even I don't know. I think those left somewhere because we don't need. They don't care about taking them off. And you can still see. Of course, you can use it, but it's like going back really into the past. Seeing that,
mhm.
like okay, I was like 11 when the last time I used it. I was like 15, but that
A phone box.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because
yeah. Did
we
you
had.
see? I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know if I sent it to you, but we did a video of the robot in a phone box in Sky. So there's a video, and we shot the. Yeah, I don't know if I should send it to you, but we did a video in
Yeah,
myself and Hamish in the old red in this country they were like red. The red telephone boxes are very classic
yeah,
looking kind of sort of design, but there's still one on Sky that's there. So, like in the middle of winter, Hamish and I went up at about midnight and filmed me on. I'm dressed as the robot on the phone, and
like
we had that old technology with the new
of
technology of the
course, yeah,
robot. And somebody had broken. It was actually, I mean, not that I'm endorsing vandalism; it's horrible, but actually somebody had smashed the handset, so it had a big
yeah,
broken top, and the speaker was sort of dangling. But it looked great for the
yeah,
video because it made it look even more like dystopian or old.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's
it's funny. Like these old things. Like I remember when. Yeah, the old technology, you think it's going to be never come back, but it does. I mean, I actually brought to show you. I thought I brought the record. We've done the record on vinyl and on CD,
yeah, it's
and
always
it's been
beautiful, yeah.
yeah. So and we did it
Don't
like an
show it
old
like that.
fashioned.
Don't show it like that. Show it properly. You can make a little bit of advertising.
There is that's a CD, but the reason I was going to show it to you was that I did the design, but I wanted it to look like one of the old discs I remember
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah,
kid.
you're
So
right.
hold on, I'll take it out so you see. Hold on. Oh, we put the old C compact disc logo on it and everything.
Yeah, really
Can you
that
see that?
one. I see even myself reflected on that.
I think we have it. Hold on. Yeah, we've got it on there.
You see, that's yeah, oh my God,
Yeah.
I didn't saw that, didn't see that in really long time. Yeah.
Yeah, so like when we did the CD, I was like, I wanted to make it feel like it was one of the old ones. And the vinyl, I brought the vinyl to show you. It's a double vinyl, but again with the vinyl, we kind of did it. sort of like really, it's like a kind of retro future thing. But the vinyl itself is gold. But actually, there you go. Here's the picture of the phone box. If you look in the middle of that,
Ah, okay, yes,
you'll,
yeah, the magneton, yeah. You see, at least
yeah,
some was used to privacy. There used to be privacy in the phone box.
yeah. Well, it's
Yeah, the
funny. I remember my uncle. I remember my uncle, but you always end up reminding me of these old stories. When I was a kid, I used to go to my grandparents at the weekends because my mum was a single parent, and
yeah,
so she sometimes needed a bit of fucking break from me. So she would send me to my grandparents for the
no reason.
weekend. Yeah, and they lived in the middle of nowhere. They were out in right out in the middle of nowhere in Skye. And there was just a little kind of tiny, it wasn't even a village, it was like a row of about 10 or 15 houses. But
Yes.
there was a red telephone box round the corner. And I hope my uncle doesn't watch this, but I remember my uncle was actually quite young. Like my mum had a lot of brothers and sisters, and but she had a very young brother, so he was not massively older than me. I mean, older, but not like low, like he was like still I like when I was a kid, he was like sort of coming out of his sort of teens and sort of young 20s, and but he was a good looking guy, like, and he had a lot of girlfriends, but he used to be around. He used to keep them all he was around on the telephone box, and if you're there, I'd remember you see him going with his fucking bag of coins, and he would be like off to like, and so like he'd be like, "Where's he gone?" And then I would go creeping around. I'd be like looking over, and I'd see him. He'd be in there, like he'd be in there for fucking hours, like talking
Yeah,
to, talking,
yeah,
talking to,
no,
talking
no.
to girls that he was trying to date. But yeah, so and then we used to be like my friend and I used to like try and get him to come and run out after us. But
Um,
yeah, that was like privacy. He would go there for privacy to talk on the phone,
yeah,
and I remember we used to dial. We had a thing. You probably had it in Italy as well. The operator. You dial the operator, and it'd be a person there to connect you to things.
yeah, to
So,
connect to things, to services,
so
to people.
yeah. So I remember as kids,
The
like we
phone, the
would go
book.
down to
I don't know if you
the
had
book.
with all the
Yeah,
number, and you have to look like,
numbers in it.
okay, privacy zero. Okay, so my friend is a Z, so okay. Hello,
That's right.
how many jokes we made with that? How many
It's true.
jokes?
It's true. It's true. And like you're right. Actually, the book used to be in the box. Like they'd leave the
Yeah,
book in there. You could go in and have a look through the book. But aye, it's we used to go as kids at night
yeah.
time and just dial the operator and try and talk to the person. But, hey, like just like, and they would just like get really pissed off with us eventually. But
Yeah.
we used to be in and out. Another thing, this is another thing that you don't do anymore, but we were, as kids, we never, ever, ever walked past a phone box without opening the door and putting our fingers in to see if there was any coins in the, and
Also,
they always
also in
double
the
check.
machine, also in the coffee machine or whatever it was when you buy the
Yeah, that's right.
you go in those park, whatever Luna Park, where you call it like you are like, let me put some coin to see of someone left coins. I can go into to whatever you call it
That's it.
so the fair in town and
That's right.
and, and we were kind of um, poor kids. So we have, I mean, it's not that like today you have like 50 euro per week or 100 euro per week as teenager. Back then it was like, not even euro because we had a different type of coin. We remember like five millilire used to call lira.
Yeah,
Like, and with
yeah. I
that I
remember
had
Lita.
to do everything like buy ice cream, get out the week on Saturday. But that was my like was 11 when the euro came
Hmm.
out. I was in my 12, 13 years old. So it was like, what's
Hmm.
going on now? I'm going to high school. I don't
Yeah.
know how to use the euro. It was my
With this new money, yeah.
God.
Scotland we didn't, they were still using the pound, but I remember the lira because I remember my mum had a bag of coins from
Yeah,
places that she traveled, and there was, I remember lira, but a million lira was not a lot of money. It sounded like a lot of money, but it was like,
yeah.
yeah,
Million.
because I remember there was
Yeah,
a joke that we would have as like in here. I don't know if this will make sense, but like, there was that saying, they say, oh, if somebody looked really great, they'd say, you look $1 million, like they
Yeah,
say. But
exactly.
then, but here they would say, if somebody was like looking like shit, they would say, you look 1 million lira,
Exactly, because
because there was like hardly any money.
a million of lira became 500,000 euro. The half.
Oh, was it? Okay, so it
Yeah,
was
I
a
mean,
lot then. In
it's
that case, it
always a
was a
lot of
lot. I thought it
money.
was,
I would never
yeah.
say no to that type of to those money, but
All right, okay. I definitely didn't get my currency
no,
transactions
but
right, because I thought it was worth less than that.
no, but you know, I think people listen to this, they think they are really old, like people in
You
their
fucking are. That's what it is, man. It's a privilege. Like, the people, I meet people and they're like, they get all uptight about it. I'm like, you're fucking lucky,
it's
mate.
not
I'm
that
like,
we
I
are.
just every year I have a birthday. I think, God, I've managed. Man, I made it another one. So
Like it's not that we are all, because we went through really the final phase of was the analog, really like the late
yeah,
years, like, and then I think young generation doesn't realize that everything moves so fast with the technology
yeah, that's
that
true.
I mean I
That's
remember
true. Yeah.
like Instagram, like I was what I remember like 2014 I got Instagram, 2015. So just not even
Mm.
12 years ago, like, and I didn't know what was. I really remember MySpace. It wasn't the coolest one, honestly.
Oh, MySpace. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that one. Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah, Instagram was good at the beginning. I remember when it first kind of came out, it was like a interesting platform. It felt creative, actually. You could kind of put images on it,
Always for photos, well, always.
and I think yeah, and I think the key thing about it though was that what you um what you followed was what you were given, like,
Yeah,
so if, like, if I was friends with you and I was friends with fucking Dave and
yeah,
whoever else, Mary and the rest of them, it's like the I get what they're doing, but
exactly.
like somewhere along the lines, someone decided that it didn't matter what on earth you were following, they're just going to give you. So like anytime I go on it, it's just a stream of
Yeah,
shit most of the time, to be
yeah,
honest
it's
with you.
like who are
And
these
very
people?
rare, yeah, and very rarely do I actually see any content from anybody that I actually either follow or am interested
Yeah,
in, which is kind of sad. But
yeah,
I just look at old cars on it all the time. You look at my my feed; it's just old vintage cars all the time. Well, I say cars of my childhood, and
yeah.
yeah, but it's a funny platform. I don't know. I mean now it's like it's almost a joke platform now. Really, I don't
A
think
little
anyone
bit
takes
old,
it
I think. Yeah,
seriously.
a little bit
It's
old.
more like it's like a news platform now. It's a shame that there's not a way for people to do something. I use it because I have to. I've never really given it an awful lot of like credibility in that sense, where I'm just like, well, I tell you, here's an interesting thing, which is that I'll say that this last year has taught me about Instagram with music, particularly.
Yeah,
So when we started this release kind of cycle, I think we had maybe a couple of thousand or one, I don't know, 1,000 Instagram followers, right? So, and to the outside world, it's like, oh, this band are nothing because they haven't got, Instagram followers. Interestingly, as this year's gone on, our streaming numbers are like flying. So,
yeah,
like, we're the first day we released this record last Friday,
yeah.
we were streamed on only Spotify was like 30,000 streams in one day. So
It's a lot.
yeah, and like it's a lot, and and we've seen that, and so we're now we're averaging between sort of 20, we're averaging around 25,000 streams
Hey,
per day on these platforms at the moment. We're on course, I think, we're sitting between 500,000 to 1 million streams in a month at the moment, which is a lot
yeah,
of times for someone to listen to music. Now, when we started this, we weren't doing that. It was like
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. There was like, 10 or 20 or something, I don't know, but it was nothing. It was little.
The beginning.
But this music has gone, and it's like, and it looks like it's not slowing down just now, although I'm sure at some point it'll tail off. But for the time being, certainly, and we've got plans just now for everything that we're doing, the streaming has gone. So, but our social media following has pretty much stayed very level. It's not really, it's creeping up, but it's not like the people listening to our music is going like that. The people on social media is just kind of doing that. Now, for me, that's great because I don't give a fuck about this anyway. Like it's like I want people to listen to my music. Like I'm a musician, I'm not a fucking influencer or whatever the hell it is. And so like I'm like, okay, this is good. People are listening to the music and they're coming back to it. And so we're seeing that, but the social media following is kind of like this. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the music industry would have you believe that you've got to have this social media presence in order for folk to listen to your music.
Exactly.
It's bullshit.
Or
I
in
see so many
yeah.
platforms. It's total shit. People have been like, and it took for us to do this with our own label to figure this out, actually. We just sold out our launch show. The gig before that, we sold out. And that's not because but I'm just saying that we have active people that are listening to our music and they're invested in. Social media has not caused that. It's been making music that thankfully is connecting and making work and concentrating on the art and concentrating on that and making sure that's good and making sure that's good. The social media is fun sometimes to do, but it's not it's not the main event, shall we say,
Yeah, no.
Um,
I can
and so what happened is for us is that we've got this social media thing doing that, but then I've seen other platforms and it's not to compare, but we started looking into it. We were like, okay, what's going on here? And so we could see that there were social media accounts with like hundreds of thousands of followers and things like that, and the music was just being listened to barely at all. And so, or equally, don't get me wrong, there's people that are managing to do both, and it's going like
Yeah.
that. But what it really kind of showed me was that social media following is not equal to people
the engagement.
listening
Yeah.
and then being invested in your art. And actually, I had to ask myself, I was like, do I follow any music that I don't follow any? I don't sit following any artist of music I listen to really. And I'm not, so there's what we are seeing in the real fucking kind of outside world there is that there are people listening to the music. And I mean, like the other night, someone sent me a link. There was a guy in like Peru doing a vocal cover of like one of my songs. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
saw
right,
that.
okay,
Yeah.
so that's real, And I'm like, okay, so that's not, you know, and he didn't even follow my social media page, this guy. So it's like, social media, it's overinflated fucking nonsense. And,
Yeah.
I think, and I treat it like nonsense now. I kind of like, I make sure what I put on it. I feel like I'm still trying to put quality things on it. I make sure that the visuals are good, that the artwork that I put on it's good. Hopefully, if I go on it and say something, it's not just a pile of nonsense. But I treat it very loosely. I'm not like worried about it. I post something and then
Yeah.
fucking abandon it and leave it. And I never used to do that. So before I would be like, oh, we have to get this thing. And Ian, who plays music with me, was very helpful because he turned around one day and just said to me, just think of it as a shop window. He's like, don't even, it's just like put your display the things that you feel really like good about and confident about and
Yeah.
like your best work, display your best work there, and then hopefully if someone just happens to go past and maybe they'll go and have a look around, and that's the way that we treat it now. But it's been interesting to see that this idea of social media being tied to your popularity is
Exactly. And that's
fucking nonsense.
also how many PR agencies sometimes, let's say, even if you pay them, they take you for, because I have a friend that she's working a lot with, collaboration. She's not super famous, but she's like a ghostwriter working. But when it comes to her music, which she doesn't have a super big presence, but she's really good. Her music is really listed, like you said. Like, PR agencies, like if she doesn't have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000,
Yeah,
whatever, 10K, I'm
it's
not
true.
I'm not gonna
It's
tell you
sad.
not wasting our money, like in completely honestly, like okay, I understand, but you
Yeah.
don't. Even to me, it happens when I have to do an interview. I sometimes I get management say, "I'm sorry, you don't have 200,000 follower for what an interview."
Yeah.
Like, really?
It's a lot of crap. I mean, it's the same, but it's sad. You're right though, because it is a real thing. Because
Yeah,
what we're certainly for like festival slots and certain live shows, like they'll look at your social media following before they look at how many people are actually listening to your music, because they're looking for free advertising most of the time. So it's like if you've got a big social media following, then it's kind of like, okay, we can work with that, and you'll be able to kind of promote our gig for us and stuff. But I remember having a like I was in a sort of label situation previously with the last album that I put out, Gemini Rising, and that was through a label, and they were based in the States, and I remember having a very, you know it was a very kind of revealing conversation at the time. There was a publicist involved and, being paid
yeah,
to kind of like try and promote this record and whatnot. And I remember having a chat, and he said to me on a call, he's like, no one's going to take this seriously with less than, at least like 20,000 followers on
okay,
Instagram for me to try and get an article written about you and stuff like that. And I was like, and he said, I don't care. And I remember this was what he said to me. He says, I don't care if you have to buy them. He says, just get 20,000 followers. And I just remember
okay.
thinking, I was like, fuck off. I'm not going to buy followers. That's the other thing. Like, like, I see platforms. That's where I know that there's holes in this whole thing, because go and check out what's happening with the actual work of a lot of these huge kind of social media
Yeah,
accounts, and you think they're full of bots, bot
yeah,
fucking followers, and
yeah.
so
They
there's
sometimes it's also
there's
something
no.
that is made by I think Instagram itself or Facebook itself when
Yeah.
it started
Yeah.
to promote I don't know the check mark or the adding. Sometimes
That fucking blue tick thing.
sometimes
Yeah.
you have to they put it by mistake, like so you have it, so oh I have it, so you don't, and then you don't know that you will have to pay it. Now there is Instagram for like pay me, you have to pay for Instagram Plus, WhatsApp Plus. Like I keep whatever I have because honestly I'm already I don't want to get too much into depth in that because let's leave it like how it is. But things gonna start changing. I mean, I'm still waiting because I know that for fact that one day there will be another social media that will pop out. There will be
Yeah,
other.
there will be. There will
Yeah,
be. Of course,
I
there's
remember.
always the end. I mean, I've been surprised at how long this one's lasted, though. I
Yeah, but
mean,
I remember
I
listening.
thought I didn't.
Yeah, sorry.
No, no, no. You were
Um,
right. Just what you were
yeah.
saying.
No, I was just saying that I listened like the first time that you appear your music, not your peer, like a I don't know saying that I saw your music was on Facebook.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it was on
Interesting.
Facebook. There was some clip or something, or there was you talking about yeah, you were walking through sky. There was you talking about I think it was
Okay.
about Moon, the song Moon Possible.
Okay.
So was like maybe Gemini Rising, sometime
Pass.
maybe before was
Possibly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
And
Instagram.
that was how it started. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, okay. So it was Facebook, yeah. I mean, listen, it works. These things do work. I
yeah,
mean, we had a guy came up to me just on Sunday there when we did our album launch gig,
we're gonna talk about that,
and
of course.
he you want to talk about that? He came up to me though afterwards, and said, I found you on TikTok. Now, I barely use TikTok. I think and so like a few weeks ago, I just mostly for a laugh, to be honest with you, I just started firing up little videos and saying, "Do you think you know what Scottish band sounds like?" And do you think just like shite I was throwing on it, and like right, just to see what happens, like throwing hand grenades. And but one of them went poof like that and started getting watched. And then with this guy had seen the video and come to the gig. So I said to him, right, okay. So I sort of thought, shit, maybe I need to take that a wee bit more seriously. But I think maybe I don't, because I think it's because I don't take it seriously. It was working.
Yeah,
But but he'd come to the gig on the basis of a TikTok. video, so it can do things for you. I mean, I'm not going to say that
Of course,
it's
no,
completely
no,
useless,
no. They connect.
but I think that if you depend on it,
No,
you're screwed. And part of the reason that this robot story existed was also, about the idea of at some point, some like you said, it changes or whatever. But like if you're completely depending on this digital
yeah,
kind of platform and technology, somebody somewhere, somebody out there has the fucking on-off switch for that, and
yeah,
it's not you.
exactly. Yeah,
It's fucking not you, man. Somebody could turn around and be like, do you know what? Buff, you're
yeah,
done.
yeah.
And and that's it. One hit, your fucking career, your income, you're like, you've got you've not to be
Money.
too vulgar, you've got your nuts in someone else's hands,
Yeah,
It's
yeah, of
like,
course. Your
and so
data, yeah, everything, like
everything.
even your
And it's like,
health data, whatever. Yeah,
everything. And so if you're making art and you're making work, and now we've got it even further where it's like, well, actually, we're going to feed it into this big fucking data center as well at the same time, and that's going to hold it all. You know, I'm like a believer in having like a physical
exactly. Yeah,
copy of my work. Like if
yeah.
I die tomorrow, at least I know somewhere that that exists somewhere. Fuck it, for whatever it's worth, it's
Exactly.
probably worth nothing.
So you mentioned a live show. So because last Sunday it was last Sunday, Saturday, it has
Yeah,
been the
last Sunday.
the release party finally out with a live band.
Finally, yeah.
The live
Live
band.
band, yeah, full band. Yeah, full
Ah,
band
how was
now.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
How was it?
Good, very good. Yeah, it was nice. It was good. It was good. Really good, actually. We did a full weekend. We had the Friday, the album came out, and then the Saturday,
Okay.
Ian and I did a Ian and I did a thing. We called it the VIP listening experience.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually that's why I was trying to punt my t-shirts. We were selling my
Exactly.
t-shirt. Yeah. So, but the
The VIP.
yeah, we did that. We did the listening thing on the Saturday. That was really nice. It was amazing, actually. We did that. It was a very small ticketed thing,
Okay.
and you basically, I can't tell you everything that happened because some of it we might do again, and it's a bit of a like
It's the
surprise kind of
surprise of the
thing.
package. Yeah, of the package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things was listening to the record with us on the full system where we recorded it in the studio. But
Cool.
the amazing thing about it, Ada, was that the people that came, there was uh, one person came from Rotterdam, one person came from, I can't remember exactly where in Germany it was again, but traveled from Germany. Someone else, there was a couple traveled from Sweden. There was a guy flew all the way from Montreal, I think, in Canada to come to this thing.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, and there was another guy came and flew up from London that day just to do that. He wasn't able to come to the gig the next day. He just wanted to come and have this experience with us. And I spoke to him briefly and I said, "How did you find this?" And he said, "I found the album about 4 weeks ago and I broke up. I went through a really bad breakup and I've been listening to it all the way through. And I just wanted to come and find out kind of about the, you know,
The experience.
where the music had come from or whatever." And so, and of course we had people from Scotland, which was amazing too. But to see that folk
Yeah.
traveling like from across the planet to come just to have like basically a couple of hours with us with that was amazing. So that was the Saturday, and then the gig was on the
Sunday.
Sunday, which yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. We've got like there's a full obviously when I record music, I don't really think about how it's going to be replicated live because it's quite densely layered a lot of the time. I play most of Ian will play the piano primarily, and he'll add bits of keyboards and he'll do bits of backing vocals here and there. But the bulk of the sound really is the guitars, and I'll play keyboards on it. I play the bass on it, and I do the vocals, and so like between the two of us, we cover a lot of ground in terms of what this sound of this is. And then Scott, who's been playing, he's the drummer, an amazing guy. He's just such a sweet guy, and he's now that's the second album he's done. So that was the sort of core sound of the
Yeah.
recording. Really was the three of us, but then to do it live, we had to kind of expand. So we had Conrad, saxophone player, who played on the record, and he's amazing. And he's a very, very kind of high level jazz saxophonist. And so I think he really enjoys coming to do this with us because he just gets to sort of, he has the best job in the band, to be honest, because he kind of comes on. Everyone's really fucking happy to see him because he's got a saxophone, and no one's ever disappointed by a saxophone.
Yeah.
He just like comes on and he like plays. Everyone's really delighted, and then he fucks off to the bar and watches us for like a few more songs, then comes back again, and like he's like, so he has a nice time while
Yeah.
the rest of us are working hard. But so he was with us, and then there was myself, and then Ian, and then Charlotte, who's just joined us not that long ago, who's playing bass, and she sings and plays some synth live with us as well. But she's amazing. She plays in a lot of different bands and is very, very, very kind of high level touring musician herself. And so that's our kind of five-piece band, and it's been great fun to kind of learn. I had to sort of learn the stuff myself a little bit because I wasn't really sure what
How
would I
it's
will I
gonna
play the
be
bass, will I
like.
play the
Yeah.
guitar, what will I play, like and so I kind of decided to sort of go back to the guitar, the electric guitar, and but a lot of the recording was just like kind of stuff that I did off just on the day. I never thought about how. So some stuff I had to go back and figure out, and Ian had to go and dig through the files and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was that guitar," So I sort of spent a bit of time relearning my own songs, and then I've gotten this new setup for my live equipment now, which is really interesting. So before I used to have these huge big pedal boards that had all
Okay.
different kind of things, and and because I use a lot of different kind of sounds and
Um,
whatnot, and very much a purist about that stuff. But I have this new device now, which is I was like we were talking about digital technology. It's quite interesting. So it's basically modeled my amplifier. So I have an
yeah.
amplifier that was hand built by a guy that's a one-off, and it's got quite a particular sound. But we've managed to capture my amplifier into this unit now, so it kind of
Okay.
lives in there, and I
Okay.
can add all of
Yeah, that's
my
what I like.
yeah, and it's like it's weird. And so I now don't even have an amp. I just got this like
It's
machine
easier.
that
Yeah.
has my pedals, it has my sound, but it's my sound and it sounds exactly like my stuff. And so, and it's so much easier. And I've switched to the in-ear monitors as well, which I never used to use. So, 'cause there's been a lot of new learning, but in amongst all of that, we've become a much better band for it. We sound, with like it's just notched up a big level. And so we did our first gig in when was it? Beginning of the year together, we did this Celtic Connections Festival. It was a big festival. Played this church in Glasgow, and it sold out, which was amazing. And that was our first run at it, and yeah, we were all really into it. We thought it went really well, but we knew that we could do, as we always will do, try and do better. So this time we kind of got our heads down and did a good bit of rehearsing, not too much, but a wee good enough, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's a good band. I don't mean that in a ego way, but it's a fucking good band. Like everyone's can really play. We're all players that have like spent our lives learning how to play our instruments, and like every one of those guys is a fucking extremely talented musician in their own
Yeah.
right. Outside of what we're doing, and
Yeah.
Ian's amazing. They're all amazing musicians. So together, and also
Works.
even more importantly, yeah, but also like personality wise, we're a good match. We all get on. Like it's a
Okay.
fucking laugh every time we're in a room together. Like it's just we just spend most of our time pissing ourselves laughing about
That's
things and then go, shit, we
magic.
better rehearse.
Yeah.
And so it's basically just like getting to hang out with your friends and play music. So like that's the best thing in the world. So that's been the live band, and now we've kind of like really solidified that. And the more that we're together, the more we're getting to sort of know each other's quirks musically, I suppose, and whatnot as well. And so the band becomes more solid for that. So we did a live session a few weeks ago in the studio where we did five
Yeah.
songs from the record, and that's going to come out as a live EP.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
And
Okay. Very cool.
yeah, so we've got the album is really only just getting started now. We've kind of done it back to front, so it's so we've done that. We had them filmed, so it's looking really cool. Uh, and we did really nice versions of the tracks that have kind of become the sort of like the live kind of version of these
Also,
songs.
mm,
And there's a different energy to it as well, you know. Definitely there's a like we did a track called the LCD, and I think
yeah.
that's the next one we'll probably release. But I listen to that now when we're playing it live, and it's a lot harder. There's a
It's,
kind of real
it
there's a
still
bit of
keep
a
the
fucking
cinematic vibe. It still keep it, or it's
it's got a cinematic, but it's got a
yeah,
little bit more kind of just like
rock and roll.
grunt to it. Like a wee bit, yeah, because by the end of it, like every time we play it, like by the time we're at the end of it, I kind of look around and I just see everyone's like that fucking head like going, you know, and the band and it just gets a little bit louder and a little bit harder and a little bit more and a bit more just like a bit more bite to it. And it just drives really
Yeah,
hard.
cool.
So, and I've kind of found, yeah, it's really good. And I've found that with a lot of the songs, and they're sort of taking on a little bit of a different life in the
Yeah,
live versions. It's still the same big sound, but it's got a
also,
little bit more
also to,
just grunt to it.
are you planning some other live shows like, or is slowly still settling the albums release?
No, we're going to be, yeah, we are. But we're doing this our kind of own way now. So we've got plans for two different kind of types of show, I think, that we're going to do. We've actually got another gig booked in for September, but it's only going to be a show with just Ian and I doing something, which we'll put up in the next, probably in the next week or two. But yeah, we'll get a wee tour together with the full thing. And then I think next year it'll be probably about trying to hit some festivals and things like that. So, you know, we're going to put in this next, we've got a good year's worth of promoting to try and do with this thing now. So
After 4 years,
know,
let's say it's time to focus
yeah,
on.
it's time to like, yeah. So, you know, I think, you know, I always feel a bit sad for people when I see them put music out and I think they think that that's the end of it. But I mean, for us, we're like, right now we've made this thing. We better go out and fucking actually let
Yeah,
people know it exists, you
and
know?
you're
So,
thinking to wear the costume, maybe in the
so
festival.
yeah. The festival, yeah. So we'll push it for the next for a good while, and we've got extras. We've got the live kind of sessions to
Yeah,
release. We've actually got some other songs that didn't get finished. We may well do something with those. And
you know, stuff.
so there's a lot more to come with it than you've got the short film as well, which I'm going to
Yeah,
try
that's
and
what I
promote.
mentioned. Explain the
Yeah.
story
Um,
of
yeah, explain the story.
this
So
human, this
exactly, this human robot.
that,
But I
this,
think, it's like we've got a lot of work. We've done so much work, and so now, yeah, I think it's important for a lot. I think it's important that you don't just think that just because you put something out online that everyone in the world's heard it. It's like no one's heard this thing yet, you know. So we
no,
need to
it's
take our
new
time now and
to settle.
let it kind of yeah, and let it find its way. But
Yeah,
it's been very good. It's been a good response. We've had nothing but good
the-
sort of good vibes and good comments on it, and um so we're proud of it. We knew it was a kind of solid bit of work when we were working on it. We felt good about it.
and then the next kind of release will be like the nostalgia burns kind of movie, music, video, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, music movie. I think I was kind of like,
Music.
that's what I've, yeah, I mean, that's just a kind of name I've kind of conjured for it, I suppose. But I think it came from a bit of a sort of funny conversation where, like, people were saying, myself included, admittedly, actually, was kind of feeling like the music video was kind of dead a wee bit, like it
Yeah,
sort of died. MTV
I
closed down
remember that too.
not that long ago, and all of that. So I thought it's the death of the music video a little bit at the moment,
Mm.
and so I was like, well, fuck it. I was like, what about the music movie then? Let's try that, and like actually have like a full kind of like story. And
Of course.
so yeah, I've been working with Sarah on this idea and concept of this story and origin story of the robot. And we that was kind of another thing that we worked on together as she was building and we were kind of developing all of that. And so I've cut it and edited it into a kind of short that answers
Yeah.
some questions, but leaves some questions open
Open.
as to what, yeah, but it
Yeah.
does give context to this whole thing, which
Yeah.
I've been sort of purposefully not doing because I wanted to see how people would respond to it
React.
without knowing what it was, and that's been
Yeah.
interesting. But there
And
is a very strong reason for it.
yeah, and also I just can make a spoiler about what there was a message that stood for me what the mom says to him. I even took the screenshot, like
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
Yeah, we leave it to the people.
yeah,
Beautiful
yeah.
quote.
Leave it
Uh,
to the people to find, yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, that was a lot of the kind of core of that. Nostalgia Burns for me, like as a concept, as an album, was all about the kind of, I guess, being at that point in life where, you know, we talked about age earlier, but you do
yeah,
get to a point in life where you kind of realize that you're probably, if not at least maybe beyond halfway through whatever this kind of journey is of life that you're on potentially. And so you get to the point where you're suddenly at this kind of crossroads of where you're sort of like looking one eye behind you and one eye kind of to the future whilst trying to figure out what the fuck you're doing in the middle of it,
yeah.
really, and you're in this kind of like sort
I
of middle
know
ground of life. And so you can become very nostalgic in that instance, and you can kind of start to, sometimes we rose tint the past. We'll say, oh, everything was so much better. We've talked about things like,
yeah,
when we were young, and so nostalgia burns for me. The title came to me way back in sort of 2020 in the middle of COVID and all of that stuff, where I felt like there was a kind of nostalgia for like better,
exactly.
easier times, and people were saying, it was easier. And so I was hearing that a lot, and so I had that. But then I also had the idea, it had a sort of few different meanings to me. I had, I've seen people close to me, very close to me, kind of in the on the harder side of like things like alcoholism and things like that, where
I
you maybe
know.
get into
Yeah,
that, and quite often, you'll see that you become very nostalgic when you're in that kind of, like, if you're
yeah,
abusing
no,
yourself through substances or something, it's quite often because you're just trying to numb the fucking day or numb life. I've been in that
before,
scenario myself in times. But what you end up doing though is you become very reflective and you kind of start to live in the past a little bit. And so I've seen that. And then I kind of thought nostalgia in that sense can kind of burn you, in the sense it can just keep you sort of
yeah,
locked in the past and you're no longer looking at the future. And it can be quite a
to the
toxic thing,
present. Yeah,
nostalgia sometimes. Yeah, so it has like a double meaning. It can be something like a burning nostalgia for this joyous thing, but also it can be something that it becomes a prison of like kind of not allowing
mm,
yourself to sort of move forward. And so
um,
that was sort of where that concept had come from. And so the robot story and everything, it's all about cycles, really, and the cycle of
uh,
life. Uh,
the life is a wheel. History is a wheel itself. That was taught history. That's everything repeat. It's all a cycle. Everything. So
yeah,
yeah, and I think that like is a if we look also like you said, nostalgia could be like for something that you crave because it was
yeah,
beautiful and it's a memory, but at the same time can
yeah,
become like a knife, like a knife into your chest, into your back, whatever it is. But can be just also, I think, because some of us never learn how to deal really with the past. I think also as well,
yeah,
we never learn how to even
yeah,
accept the good memories. Like we always sometimes I have this kind of nostalgia, like oh, it was so beautiful back then. I miss those days, blah, blah. And we forget
mhm,
how we live into the present. Maybe, and then the present became the past, and the time goes by.
yeah,
This time I
yeah, yeah,
once once at the therapist, she told me, Ada, every time you stay like with this loop in your head, you're gonna lose a day that you will never get back.
Yeah, it's true. I
Yeah,
mean, it is true. I mean, when you start seeing, I remember, not to be to go too deep about it, but like I watched my mother pass away in front of me, and I remember being very quite kind of profoundly suddenly aware of the fact that there is for sure an end to all of this for all of us. I think up until that point, perhaps I maybe lived in a bit of a kind of slightly
yeah,
sort of state of disbelief that actually life has an ending because you're so busy living it. But then when I saw that so clearly and so close to me, I kind of thought, wow, okay, so this does fucking have an
yeah.
exit at the end of it, no matter who you are. And that's why I can never get my head around all these fucking billionaires and trillionaires and all that shit, because I'm just like, how many lifetimes do you think that you have? Like, how many lifetimes do you think you have to live? You have one, no matter how. They're all probably scurrying about just now, trying to find ways to make themselves live forever,
Yeah,
with all of that
exactly.
money.
That's
But they're just, what are they going to be like? Some fucking skeleton with a hair transplant that's 400 years old, fucking, like hanging
robot,
together. Like, it's
a
just,
robot.
uh, well, yeah. I mean, I'd rather be a robot, to be honest, I
Yeah,
think, than that. But yeah, there was a little bit of that in the robot, where we've kind of talked about the consciousness being uploaded into this machine in this story,
yeah,
again, not giving too much of it away, but it was conceivable to me that we might try, and try and do something like that, upload ourselves. But even then it would be a fake, I think, even if we
yeah,
get to a point where we can kind of, I don't think the soul of the human, whether you're religious or spiritual or otherwise, I still think that there's something that just is impossible
to
to
recreate.
fucking take out of a human
Yeah,
and just to remove from a human. You can't, you can take all my memories, you can take all my fucking lyrics, you can take my melodies and all of that, but you can't take what this is.
oh,
Like, you just can't,
that's why
you
we are
can't.
all different. That's why we are not all the same person in the world. Even if you look, you have a doppelganger, like it's or a twin.
Hmm.
It's like it's different from
Hmm.
us. It's all of us is different in a way. That's why I said all the time we experience life and things in different way. That maybe we do the same experience, but I live in a way and you live it in another way. So that's what makes
Hmm.
us all
But
different.
it's true, Ada, and it's the world and the life that shapes you.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you can pretend or convince
Yeah.
yourself that you have some sort of control over this, that you're in
Uh,
charge of it. But there's a degree where you're actually just a passenger, because ultimately the experiences that come at you end up shaping you. You could argue that
Exactly.
had this not happened and this not happened and this not happened, then you would be this other type of human being. There's a world in which there's an Ada that didn't get any tattoos because she didn't have this experience, or there's a world in where I'm fucking, there's a world in where, I'm fucking probably like catching a rope for a fucking ferry boat for a living or whatever, whatever it is. Like, not that
Yeah.
there's anything, wrong with that or any of it. I just mean,
No,
like, it's
that's
just like, you don't know, like, these life experiences come along.
yeah,
That's why songwriting can't be replicated, because the only reason that, using myself as an example in this instance, the only reason I can write this song, whatever one
exactly.
it is because fucking this happened to me,
Yeah,
or this happened to me, or this fucking happened to me. And
yeah.
it made me go, okay, I'll write something about that. If I'm just like if I'm just a blob that's sitting there with no life happening to me,
You're
what am
gonna
I going
write
to
some.
produce?
I'm gonna write
Fucking
some like a
nothing.
lot, like just something.
I'm a blob just sitting in my house, fucking sitting looking at a mouse, whatever the fuck.
I mean,
It's
you
like,
can if you run short of idea, you can always write about the weather. So
listen, mate, don't you start me about the weather. You'll be here for another 2 hours.
I think we mentioned also them, but there is a band that wrote about the weather, which were the Beatles. I'll follow the sun. So start from there.
The best song about the weather, that I think, is always going to be Travis, like, and they're from Scotland, singing like, why does it always rain on me? It's like, that was the most resonating kind of, that should be the fucking national anthem of Scotland, if you ask me. The
Nice.
there's good content in the weather, but I actually found this, no, I'm not going to talk about new projects, but certainly where my head's kind of going with something that
Okay.
I've got kind of that I think about maybe doing next is kind of a little bit kind of dependent on weather. So we'll see how that we'll see how that goes.
I wasn't wrong about the weather.
You're never wrong about the weather.
If you want, I
Uh,
can send you some picture of some clouds, some I don't know, some clip of the weather. Now there are actually like
no, you can you can keep your clouds. Thanks. I've got enough of them here.
huh? There's
I
yeah,
said I've got enough clouds here.
I can send you some blue sky, literally
Blue sky, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take
too
Italian blue
much.
sky, no problem.
And give me some
Too
clouds
much.
and some rain.
Swap, yeah, we'll do a swap. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I can't stand that anymore. Like I'm looking through like a small triangle between the curtains and it's sunny. I'm like, no, I don't want to put the foot out. And can talk about the song because we talk about the meaning of nostalgia burns. We can talk about the song.
Yeah, yeah,
Last,
yeah, yeah,
that the
yeah,
only one we mentioned back then was, I think, the LCD. That
yeah,
I
yeah. We
made a
did, yeah.
mistake in the interview and I said the LSD in the first thing. So
The LSD.
in the first interview, when I said LSD, I was like, okay, this is not the correct. I can see because the
Uh,
album, it opens with the LCD.
the LSD.
Yeah, yeah. Don't like that because I'm gonna start to say it the wrong way.
I don't mind. You should. I mean, I would probably suggest you maybe try taking some LSD before you listen to it. It's probably not a bad experience. I mean, there was.
Kind of a
I can't
journey.
say too much, but there was some experimenting in order to come up with some of the ideas. So,
So of course, like let's re explain the meaning of LCD.
the
LCD.
LCD, yeah.
Ah,
That was like the kind of blueprint of the album. It was the first song to come out because I felt like it was the sort of embodiment of
mhm.
the kind of where my head was at with a lot of the writing with this. The LCD, well, LCD is a screen. It's liquid crystal
Okay.
display. It means it's like it's what our monitors were always kind of sort of like made from. So the idea was this is the LCD came to me as in like this is the world.
Of
This
today.
is the LCD was like whatever the digital world was the LCD
Yeah.
really. And so I'd been going through a period of time where I had this was where I sort of started forming the concepts
Mhm.
of like kind of like I guess sort of future technology, retro technology. And I was going through a period of time where I was having really bad insomnia,
Okay.
which kind of happens to me sometimes.
Me too.
Um,
Welcome to the club.
yeah. Well, that's because you're living in the fucking bat cave there, mate. When we open the curtains, it'll wake you up a bit. The
It doesn't work anymore.
so the but the but the yeah, I was having this period of yeah not being able to sleep, sorry. And so I found myself I was on my phone a lot, like I was on it all the time, just
Yeah.
like scroll, 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 scroll.
You know the
And
meaning.
but there was one night I remember waking up and I was like my phone was like beside the bed and I was like that and I kind of woke up in the middle of the night and I just went like that and found my phone before I'd even properly woken up. And then I went like that and I started and I thought
Yeah.
and I stopped myself and I thought, fucking hell, I thought every time I
Wake up.
wake up, the first thing I'm doing is picking that fucking phone up. I was like,
Yeah.
every time, like all the time. I thought the first thing I do in the morning is I pick it up. Last thing I do at night is I pick it up. I put it down even, sorry. And so I thought to myself, I'm in a fucking relationship with this thing. Like this thing is learning everything about me. It's learning my habits. It
Yeah.
knows what I like. It knows what I'm interested in. It knows what I'm doing. It knows where I am. It's like it knows fucking everything about me. Like this little thing knows everything about me. It's looking at me all day long. It's like all of
Yeah.
these things. And I started thinking to myself, God, this is like I'm in some sort of toxic, hellish relationship with this piece of
That
technology that is linking me to this world that is not real, this LCD in my mind. I kind of
Oh,
thought about it, and so I started writing the song, and I'd had the sort of music as a bit of a demo that I'd worked on with Ian quite some time before, but I always knew in my head I wanted this vocoder, which is this like kind of robotic sounding
yeah,
vocal thing on this old kind of analog, like bands like Kraftwerk used them back in
yeah.
the day, and then like Daft Punk and these
I,
kind of bands used them a lot. But I kind of knew I wanted that, and I thought I wanted to make this kind of song that sounded like a really retro future piece of like music that kind of had this
yeah.
like really sort of like sound that was from beyond the future, but also
And
used
optional.
technology that was from my old kind of times, really, and so I started working on the song, and so lyrically, it became this kind of story of being kind of almost like in this relationship with technology, and to the point that you become completely like
And
desensitized to it. I mean, the chorus is destabilized, dehumanized, industrialized, computerized. It doesn't get much more like heavy, and I remember saying to Ian, I said the first fucking single we're gonna put out is gonna have like a chorus that's like the end of the world, and I was like, fuck it, let's do it, but I wanted to dress it up in like a song that
of
felt
course,
really like hooky and catchy and had
yeah,
this kind of mechanical kind of feel to it. And I thought, how funny and how interesting would it be to make this song that ends with complete and utter like oblivion of the world, but
yeah.
you're actually joyfully kind of like dancing into the sort of
As you did.
digital incinerator, yeah. And like even at the end of the song, there's this sound that goes like that kind of goes.
Yeah.
That's actually me with a microphone
Okay.
going like that, and then we put it through this like digital bit crusher and screwed it all up because I said to Ian, I want the end of the song to sound like so I'm suffocating
The
on
chopping.
like
Yeah.
digital
Yeah.
and digital. I'm choking on digital
Mhm.
information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like
Of
I can't like take any more. And so, but the end of the song, the lyrics at the end of the song were like, every night I'm alone and all I want to do is be with you. Every night I wake up. It sounds like a love song. It's like you're kind of, but
course.
it was like, it's a love song with this fucking, every night I wake up and all I think about is how I'm going to be with you. It's like the fucking phone. And
True.
throw it away. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Played it. I remember before it was released, I sent it to Sarah. She was working on the robot. Uh, and I said, that's the first single. And I thought, oh, to myself, I wonder how she's going to respond to this, if she's even going to like it or not. I was really kind of slightly concerned maybe she wouldn't even like
Yeah.
the music that after. And she just said, wow, I'd never want to pick my phone up ever again. And I thought, okay, well, that
That
works.
works. It works.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like that, But the interesting thing about that song is that also my sort of little human experiment with it worked because I remember getting a message back from somebody saying this is such a feel-good song, and I was like, they've not listened to it's like some people don't give a
Message.
shit about lyrics, and I thought it's like it's just it is a great feeling track, and but actually lyrically, it's about the absolute end of the
And
planet.
about the toxic
So yeah,
relationship
so
with
that's
the
I mean
phone.
that's a good way to start. If you're going to start a
Yeah.
record, like, where the fuck do you go from there? It's like track one,
That's already.
end of the world.
And that recovery is about recovering from the breakup with the phone.
Maybe, yeah. Well, actually, yeah, I suppose. Is Recovery the second track, isn't it? Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't actually ever got it here. Yeah, so Recovery was a really interesting song. That's been funny because that's been like that's flying. That seems to be the song that everyone's kind of getting behind. And when it came out, it kind of went like that. We didn't do a lot, and then suddenly it just
Okay.
went like that. And now, yeah, I mean, that song's being streamed so much. Like, I mean, I think at the moment it's about 600,000 streams or something. And I mean, it's
Okay.
going to hit the million in the next couple of months with the way it's going.
Good.
But yeah, it's been a really, people just seem to respond to that track. I don't know why. It maybe just I mean, I thought it was a good recording, definitely. I thought we did a good job of it. We kind of sometimes everything just lines up.
Yeah.
But I wrote the song in France. I wrote the song actually, and then again, it was during that whole COVID kind of period, and I was sort of in a lockdown in this little village in the middle of nowhere. and I was just reflecting. I was walking every day. I would go out into the vineyards and into the
Yeah.
heat and go out and walk and walk and walk just to clear my head and be in nature and this really, beautiful
I
kind
know.
of landscape down there, and this and everything's so fucking vibrant, the moon and the stars and everything's just like I love it. Anyway, it's probably where I'll go to die eventually, but the but it's
No,
like
it's really-
an amazing place. And so I was thinking about this, and so Recovery, the song, kind of came to me on one of these walks. I was thinking about, I'd spent some time in Virginia some years back, and the landscape I was in reminded me a little bit. There's an area there called the Cevennes, and you have these mountains, and they were very similar. They reminded me of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, and so I started reflecting on some stuff that had gone on when I was there. And that's a story for another day, but I'd sort of was working on that, and so, and I was kind of, it was just this whole song was really about, yeah, just like kind of, I suppose, healing, licking your wounds a little bit after a turbulent time, and maybe being kind of being deceived as well a little bit, feeling like you've been deceived a bit, but then kind of being sort of just finding a way to find hope, I suppose, through that, and kind of get yourself back on your feet, and being confused by it as well. Like there was a
I know.
confusion in this sort of song, like almost like tough love, in a way. So there was a lot going on with that song, and then the end of the song actually became a sort of mantra for the record. There's a lyric in it. It's like, for every life, for every faith, find the love in every face, and it's like this
Which is in the
community
back
kind of.
of the t-shirt, right?
No, the t-shirt's got "Baby, I'm Still Human" on it. Actually, yeah, yeah. So
Check it in the
it's
back of some other merchandise.
I've got fucking hats as well. I'm like Donald Trump with the fucking MAGA hat. I've got a human hat. So
Yes,
it's
of
like we've got these are going really well. People are loving these. So I'm pleased
course, it's
about
not
that.
MAGA. So
It's not fucking MAGA. This was part of it. I was like, I thought you need a hat to identify yourself these days as a human. So I was like, everyone's gonna have a human hat on.
because those are not, that's
Um,
for sure. So
no, they're not. They're fucking not. You're right. But so the end of the track, I remember working on the song in the studio, and we it was kind of, I'd done a demo of that song actually
yeah,
in France, which had like the bass and all these bits and
okay.
pieces on it. And then I came into the studio with Ian, and I played it to him. But I played it to him with just a guitar, and he was in the piano, and it was very stripped back, and he was actually really into that version. He was like, "Oh, I think this should just be like, maybe there's not any." And I said, "Nah, man, I want it to have drums. I want to have like, I've got this whole other thing to it." And so he said, "Well, I really like it stripped back as well, because," and so we kind of had a chat, and we said, "Well, why don't we do both?" I said, "Let's do the front end of it, like
And then
kind of really sparse, and then it comes boom in, and then we do the sort of second half of it." And we both agreed that that was maybe a good way to try it. And so we did this recording live of he and I. The front end of that song is just Ian on the piano and me with an electric guitar just singing the song in the recording studio. And we caught just a nice moment with it, and we didn't want to
yeah,
lose it. So we just used that. And then we kind of built
put
the second
together.
half, and Scott came in with the drums, and he came in. I fucking love that drum pattern that's on that song. He came in, and I had this programmed thing that wasn't what was there. It was similar. It had a similar feel, but he came in and he was kind of like, he's like, right, okay. And he kind of
And
was
I
just, it took
did,
him like 3 minutes. And he said, it sounds like you have like an 808, which is like an old vintage drum machine on that. He said, but I could do that in hats. So he did this amazing beat that's just
yeah,
like, dum, cha, dum, cha, dum. It's like this kind of almost like mechanical kind of drum
exactly.
pattern that he put on it, and it just suddenly was just like it was away. And then the last kind of piece of icing on the cake was I'd always wanted to have saxophone on this track, because I had this sort of idea of this smoky. I'd
Yeah,
been watching the film Heat and these like old movies, and
yeah.
I just wanted this sort of very like smoky bar saxophone. And I said to Ian, I says, I really want to put saxophone on this. Do you know anybody? Because he's got a recording studio and he's got people coming in and out all the time. And it's though I tell this story sometimes at a gig, and like I say this with a very heavy disclaimer that like, we are usually aligned on most decisions, and Ian brings so many great ideas, but on this occasion he was not sure. He's like, I don't think you really want to put saxophone. I said, yeah, and he wasn't sure. He said, "You not think it'll sound a bit sleazy?" And I said, "Yeah, hopefully." I was like, I want it to be like kind of, and so then he was like, "Well," he says, "I know the guy for it," and he had this guy Conrad Wisniewski, and Conrad came in, and it was just like boom, man. And he just all his takes were just like the first thing he played. He just came in and just kind of weaved across the song. So when we finished Recovery, we were kind of like, and just the very last story for that song actually was we kind of finished the recording, and then I thought to myself, it needs just something at the end. I was like, there's something missing. I'd written the song and that was all done, but I put my AirPods on. I was walking out of the studio that night, and I was listening to what we just done, and I got to the top of the hill, and I heard the end, and just I don't know, it was like a fucking download from outer space, but just out of nowhere, I just went, for every life, for every faith, final love, and every face. Just the line just kind of spilled out my mouth as I was walking. So I grabbed my phone, I thought, and so that
Write it
became the
down.
sort of end
That,
into the song. Yeah,
and also you were missing the voice because it is the movie with Al Pacino is missing his voice. You could have hired him
exactly,
next
yeah,
time.
exactly. She's
Yeah.
got a great ass. It's great.
Or Robert De Niro, but I'm more for Al Pacino. Yeah, it's my
Pacino, yeah, and that he's great in
maybe.
that film.
Yeah. But if we move forward, like of course we're gonna try to unpack a little bit because they start with it's only love and let's go two by two, otherwise we never make it. And hourglass.
Never make it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's only Love and Hourglass. Well, they're quite good ones to put together because we got a vocalist called Neve Dobie. She
She's
performs
great.
as
Yeah.
her artist name's very good. Yeah, her artist name's Riley, but she was I'd written those songs, and they were kind of like written as almost sort of slightly kind of. I was trying to write these, well, not trying, but I was writing these kind of very classic 80s kind of like love
Love
scenario
song.
type
Yeah.
songs, kind of thing. And I knew that they had that feel to them. And so I thought I'm going to lean into that. So I'd said to Ian at the time when we were chatting, I said, I'd love to get a female vocalist. I said, because I feel like this kind of like is sounding far too much like heavy leaning on the fact that there's a male kind of, in this fictional world of a lot of
Yeah.
these stories or whatever it is, it's like you need to let's hear the other person's voice here, it's like, and
Exactly.
let's hear that kind of part of the story too. So I felt like it would give balance to this sort of
Yeah.
like a relationship in a way, and kind of it's like,
Makes
well, I'm
sense.
hearing everything you've got to say. Let's hear what this other
Yeah.
person's got to say. So we kind of thought, let's bring in a female vocal to deliver that, and so I'd written the songs in my mind, always imagining that I'd get someone in. But anyway, Ian suggested Neve, and she was fucking great. He sent me a few. There was a couple of people he suggested, and he sent me a link to some of their tracks. And I sat one night, and I didn't even bother listening to the other ones. She was the
It
first
was
one, and I was just like, it's her.
that's
I was
it.
like, it's
That's
definitely
it.
her. She's
Yeah.
got that feel, yeah. And then she came in, and she was good fun, and just came in and just gave it all. She kind of went beyond what we were expecting in some ways, actually. So yeah, and then Conrad again with the saxophone. But yeah, they were very much sort of summery summer kind of sounding songs, and yeah, they've kind of give the voice to the sort of female kind of aspect of these stories, I suppose.
Yeah, that's beautiful because like also gives like you said other perspective from another point of view from I don't want to say female point of view, but let's say from another point of view gives kind of double
Yeah,
voice in the songs. Of course, like I'm gonna pack in two by two the song. I mean, we already mentioned Nostalgia Burns, which is the title of the album, but there is Starlight
oh yeah,
inside
Starlight
there.
Lovers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, that one was another one that was kind of similar in that way. Starlight Lovers was a track I worked on that song years and years and years and years ago as a demo, like, and it kind
Okay.
of was actually sort of as a project. The
Nice.
lyrics weren't formed, but there was a kind of musical motif in it that it was just a very small idea, and it was sort of chucked to the sort of side, and then I was rooting digging through old ideas and I found it, and I just kind of on the day just felt kind of inspired again by it and started
Okay.
working on that song. But I was really kind of trying, I suppose, I was channeling a lot of the. There's a Scottish band that I really loved growing up called Simple Minds. I don't know if you know them
Yeah,
or
of
not,
course, yeah,
but
something like that.
yeah. So like, they were a really interesting band from Scotland because they've got their hits that are really like well known, but they were quite an experimental alternative band really, and
Yeah,
I loved the guitar playing and stuff on that band and the synths and stuff. But not that that sounds like it, but I was sort of listening to a lot of that around that sort of time I was working on that tune.
so,
And then again, we got Neve on the end of it, and it kind of carried it off somewhere else at the end, which is really cool. But that was where a lot of the robot voice stuff was in as well. And that Starlight Lovers, I kind of layered that with vocoder and yeah, we coupled it up. If you want, you're saying with Nostalgia Burns being that kind of like kind of core song that it felt like everything was sort of around. That song was sort of the story of people who were kind of disconnected from the world,
yeah,
and it was kind of there was the first half of it is this, Mary says that she's doing fine, but she's not, and it's kind of like she's in her bed all day, kind of hiding from the world, and it's like, but not really willing to kind of learn the lessons of life to be able to come out of her shell or whatever, and then the second half is about like this guy who's basically just living in this kind of like
yeah,
online world, and then the chorus is this humanity of like, well, if you're really feeling isolated, calling me, I'm a human being, let's kind of do something. And
yeah,
so there's that kind of feel to that song. And but it was kind of funny because I'd written the song. It was influenced. There was definitely like there was two people I could say that influenced each part of these songs. But you sometimes don't. You're not going to put someone into a song,
yeah,
but but it kind of made sense to me. I had this sort of first half of this Mary Says thing, and I thought, and then I
yeah.
decided I'm going to give them biblical names, so I gave them Mary and Joseph are the two the two easiest names that came to mind. So it was a modern day nativity,
Yeah, like the creed, the New Jerusalem in 2026, like the
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've studied
I
a lot of
was
religious
Batman. It
history,
was
so
Batman. It was Batman. Sorry, that the
yeah.
fact that my mom will kill me if she heard me say that it was the wrong city. So yeah, but I like it. But from Nostalgia Burns, it looked like going more. That's what I hear, like more a little bit like Destroyer, losing you, a little bit more kind of nostalgic, like melancholic, kindish.
Yeah, yeah. That Destroyer was like the last. Like we kept that back. That only came out just on Friday with the record. That one and Stormy Hill. But Destroyer was the song. That's the first song that I wrote using a keyboard as the starting instrument. Usually I use a guitar, but Destroyer. That whole intro is a Selena, which is an old kind of vintage keyboard that like David Bowie used one of them, it's like
Yeah,
that. And so I had an emulator. I've got a real one, but I had a fake kind of one, and I was working again. That came from when I was living in France. And I was working on just little ambient pieces of music, just things just to kind of just to keep my brain moving. And so I had this kind of like chord passage that I'd been working on that I just recorded. And then there was a melody line which became the destroy kind
yeah,
of actually was just a little figure that I'd played as a melody on the Selena. So that was actually just like a kind of like it was almost like Vangelis, like a kind of like
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
like sort of ambient sort of synth
Beautiful.
thing that I had, and then I kind of picked it up when I got back to Scotland, and uh and I really liked it. I thought, God, it's got a really moody kind of feel. I thought there's something in that progression. It's not a very unusual progression, but there was just something in it. So I thought I'm going to write a song over it. So I kind of looped it around and then kind of did it. And so the song Destroyer, it's actually I really love that song. I was, it's a long song. It's like a very long track. I think it's about 6.5 minutes. But I kind of like these sort of very heavy,
Yeah,
long kind of tracks anyway. And I really wanted to have them because the first two Sieg albums were a lot of that kind of very big, long, kind of sort of slow brooding. And I thought I've written so many poppier songs this time.
Yeah.
I want to have something that
One.
feels
Yeah.
that scratches that itch for me, and so that song is very. It's kind of about the human condition in a way, I suppose. It's like very much about just the about the mundane kind of expectation that gets put on us to have a normal life and kind of like have a car, have a house and a steady job and basically just like cancel any dreams that you have in order to be able to
Exactly.
afford to live this life. And then when you're locked in that, as I had kind of had some experience in now and again, I found myself, reaching for, whether it be you drink too much or you do too many things and you're almost destroyed. It's like you look for your destroyer. It's like you're looking
Yeah.
for chaos to try and like just
To,
fucking
to get
break
rid
up
of
the
it. Yeah.
monotony of
I know.
yeah,
It's
and so
like a
that
cage.
was that song.
Yeah.
Like a cage, yeah.
I
But
know.
then you look for like, but
It,
you're almost looking for a stick of dynamite because
yeah.
you don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck what happens anymore
Um,
because you're so numb. You're like, fuck it, I'll just throw a grenade in here. And so it was kind of that really. But then the song has this kind of like it goes into this very long sort of ambient thing, and then it was like Scott who plays the drums. He's so fucking like such a like great musician. He will just play straight drums all the time for me, like without because I'm always
yeah.
like trying to keep things simple. But with that track, I thought I'm going to let him just rip. So by the end of that song, he just was like he was gone, and it was just like, and we recorded him just going
Like it
for it in
was
the kit.
gone
Sounds
by.
fucking great.
It went to
Yeah,
one
and he
of the
got all of
garage
his drum fills out of his system for the whole album out on one song.
track.
But the end of that song's the defiance of that. It's kind of rises up at the end, and it's like, it's like I was watching all this shit going on at the time with Ukraine getting fucking bombed
Yeah.
and things, and I thought to myself that I could see the defiance in people, which was just amazing. And so there's like this young, it's like you're never gonna fucking kill me where I'm standing, It's like there's this kind of like
Exactly.
sort of feeling to it. So
Yeah.
that was that song. It's quite heavy. And Losing You was a song that nearly never made it onto the album. I didn't really want to use it.
Okay.
But Ian was very
Push.
adamant that I
Yeah.
did. I had that song and I'd written it. Actually, I kind of rewrote it. I actually wrote that song. It kind of, I sort of diluted it a little bit to make it feel like it probably could fit into
Okay.
someone's life
Yeah.
about losing a love or something. But it actually was a song I wrote around about the time that my mum was ill, and like this idea of like knowing somebody was terminally ill, and people telling you that there was nothing that you can do to avoid it, and you living in this, to be honest, like false belief that you can still fix something, even although
Yeah.
it's fucked. And so the song kind of became about it's sort of almost the idea of like when you know that you're in a situation that's a lost
Yeah.
cause, but you're refusing to believe it and you're still
Yeah.
fighting away at it. Yeah. So that
Yes.
was those songs.
Yeah.
Nice, light, happy songs.
No, but it's something that I think it can also apply really well also to relationship life when you are in a relationship and you
Yeah.
know that you hope that you can fix it, but you know that you can't, and it's like,
It's a lost cause. Yeah.
yeah,
But you won't admit it to yourself, That was
yeah,
the
for
the
different
chorus of
people.
that song.
Yeah,
Yeah, the chorus of that song was all about that. It's like, it's like I won't admit to myself that I've kind of lost this situation, sort of thing.
exactly.
So you're kind
It
of being
makes it,
pig-headed, really.
sometimes things are out, most of the time, things are out of our control, whether we like it or not.
Control.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
we got the last three. I think the last three because I don't think I guess the last three. Amelie, Human, and Stormy Hill.
Yeah, so Amelie was a song that came when I was in France, which is why it's called Amelie. But I was um, I was doing a gig in Paris. This is years ago, and I played the show. It was just a solo gig that I did, and the next day I was supposed to come back to Scotland, but I had to wait for like the morning. There was a train that had been booked on
Yeah,
in the afternoon, so I had like the morning to do some stuff. So I thought, "Oh, I'll go for a walk," and I've been to Paris a lot of times, which very
yeah,
lucky to be able to. But I thought I'll just take a walk. So I took a walk down to Notre Dame Cathedral just
yeah,
because I was wanting to stretch, and I like it down there anyway. And there's always like people busking and
yeah,
playing music and stuff down there. And I walked down by the river, and I just remember watching this guy, and he was busking, and he was playing some guitar, and And I remember just kind of, he was okay. It was just, but it was fun. I was watching him, and anyway, I saw him kind of like give a little nod and a look to somebody, and I kind of looked over, and there was this kind of young lady watching him, and she looked very, she looked very enamored by. She was like kind
Yeah,
of slightly kind of blushing, yeah.
yeah,
And there was just this tiny moment. Just I just saw it. I
yeah,
caught it. I just watched them have it, and I just saw it. And he was like, and I thought, and I just remember like watching that. And I remember in my head thinking, God, that's how your life can change just like that in a look,
yeah.
like I just like, it's like when people find each other, or when like that first time you see somebody that maybe you fall in love with or whatever it is, there's just that wee spark. None of us can put a finger on what it is, but just something fucking happens.
No,
And I just felt like I'd seen something like that in real time. And I just thought it gave me a smile. I just remember thinking, that these two guys might never see each other again right now, but equally, like
there
this
was
could
that
be
moment.
like it
Yeah,
was that moment where suddenly I thought I kind of pieced it in my head. I had their whole future mapped out. I thought they're going to get married, they're going to have fucking kids. That he's going to be, and there's a whole going to be generations of people talking about the dad that was busking, and I had this whole thing
yeah,
in my head. So anyway, that was percolating in my brain,
yeah,
and I went back to the hotel that I was in, and I had some time, and so I was messing with an idea, and so that sort of idea of that kind of started that song, and
yeah.
then it became actually because I can't have stories be too happy. The story became a little bit the sourness of the thing came in, and it became like this whole kind of thing of two halves, where this person, like this kind of moment
And
had happened,
yeah,
and then this person had decided, actually, one side had decided maybe it wasn't actually for them, but this other person was living in this kind of hope, or like actual kind of almost slightly
yeah,
convinced themselves that there was something in it that
in
wasn't.
their
So that was
head.
that song. Yeah, it came from that kind of idea. Human has been a song that seems to have really resonated. Um, we get a lot of comments about that, particularly live. And I mean, it sort of explains itself, but I guess I was really kind of, because of the whole concept of what was going on with the record, you know, that song really was just about kind of, yeah, just like at the core of everything that we're
Yeah,
going through in this world. I think we're just trying to remember that we are still always just human, and when the world's spinning out of fucking in craziness, like
yes,
I've never been able to understand why we can't all just stop, because not
exactly.
everybody, I think, like there's no way that everybody wants all this shit that's going on.
No,
So, it was like that was where that came from, and I know that you're needing to get this wrapped up, so I'm trying to be quick. And then Stormy Hill was
don't worry, we will probably end up in another 5 minutes of the other
another
one.
5 minutes. Well,
No, the other one.
Stormy Hill was a song that Stormy Hill is a street in my town where I grew up. So I grew up in a little village called Portree, which is in the Isle of Skye, and there's a road called Stormy Hill on that street. And I wrote the that song actually. Again, I was in France at the time, and I'd just been out for dinner with some friends, and I was sitting looking out the window, and there was an electrical lightning storm going on out above the mountains, way off in the distance at night. And I was just hearing this distant rumble and the kind of thunder
Yeah,
of it all, and the rain. And it hadn't been raining for like about 2 months. And so the sound of the rain suddenly made me remind me of Scotland a wee bit,
yeah,
and I just was and I kind of sort of thought, God, I can't even, I never get homesick really, but it was the first time I ever thought, God, I can't even go back to Scotland, like where I'm from. I'm sort of stuck here at the moment. And so I started thinking about that. And then I kind of realized actually that the homesickness wasn't really for Scotland anymore. It was for like what I grew, it was like a home that no longer exists anymore. It was like childhood almost, like that I was homesick for, and I feel like that is what happens to us all. I think homesickness is actually a yearning for a time when you felt like safe as a child, if you're lucky enough to feel like that as a child, where you kind of, and actually, there's a real, almost like a death of that when you're older, that you realize that no longer
yeah,
exists, that home, and so that song was kind of a little bit of it's the first song I've ever really specifically written about where I'm
probably.
from.
That's
Yeah, and referenced a place in my town where I grew up and all of that. But I had this very vivid memory of being kind of like it's just yeah, like that. Basically, like in the winter, it was so cold, and I remember going down Stormy Hill, and it was like kind of dancing down it to keep warm because it was so
It
cold.
was
And
so
so
cool.
that memory, yeah, was just kind of tattooed in my head, and it kind of slipped into the song, really, you know. So became a sort of like a kind of yeah, it was just like the song became that. But we've been playing that song at the end of every
Yeah.
set, and we've, I mean, even on Sunday there was folks sitting in fucking floods of tears, you
Yes.
know, like yeah, we've been making a lot of people cry at our shows. Yeah, so it's yeah, there was, in fact, when we finished the song, we finished the set, sorry, I was talking to some folk. And a woman came up, she goes, "What are you trying to do to us?" And she was like that, wiping her
Wait,
eyes and
wait,
all this.
I'm gonna give you some tissue.
Yeah. I was like, here, take a t-shirt and wipe your tears. Oh, you have to pay for this. The
Good way of selling merch.
but the selling merch, yeah. But yeah, we've been definitely, there's been a kind of an emotion to the
Yeah.
song, and Human, actually. Those two songs, in fact, very quickly, but I remember, I think it was Human, it may have even been both of those. One of those two songs quite vividly brought Ian. Ian had a little tear in his eye. I remember because I
Yeah.
had like it was Stormy Hill. I remember playing to him because I again was like, I don't think that should be on it. It felt a bit like there was nothing much going
Yeah.
on. I was like, you know, it's sort of, and I sat and played him the song. And I remember I finished sort of playing it to him. He'd never heard it, and I was like, "Well, there's this one," because I had a fucking load. I had loads of songs to pick from, and so I played him this one. And I said, and I remember looking at him afterwards, and his eyes were all watery looking, and yeah. And I said, "Oh well, maybe we should use it then," you know. And he's like, "You've got to put that song on there." So yeah, there's
That's
been a couple of moments.
in all these songs, which are the meaning is, I like I was saying, for understanding the meaning aside, listen to interviews and your explanation, they should go as well through listen the album more than once and also read the lyrics. Things that happen if they have the physical copy. So I mean, how don't ever put any songs online or even on Spotify.
Yeah,
But how, like, of course, like you said, you printed like CD, vinyl, and merchandise.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Where all these go for, like, where people can find it, website.
Where can I find them? Yeah, so we've got them linked up. So I mean, to be honest, the merch stuff. I mean, like I say, I've got this stuff that I've just designed, which is so like the human. These have been selling very well. So I made this T-shirt. It's like an '80s cropped style
Yeah.
vintage T-shirt, and it's got "Baby, I'm Still Human," which is a lyric from Human on the back. And then I did the same with the hat with Human on it. And I wanted to make merch that I would actually wear myself. Not that I'm going to wear my own stuff, but I just was like, I see people that sell this shit
Yeah.
merch, and I'm like, you would never wear that, you know? So I was like, I want to make things that are kind of, so we got good quality stuff, and yeah, it's popular and people are loving it, and it's going to be the start of a whole other pile of stuff. So I've got a lot of merch ideas that
Okay.
are coming up, and so there'll be a lot more of that coming up. Short runs of stuff and things, because I think in this age where everything feels the same, I want to make kind of cool things that feel like they're special,
Well,
And the album, the physical album, like you said, like we did it on the double vinyl, and again, we didn't we did this. It's just top quality press. There's a place in Edinburgh called Seabass Vinyl that printed this for us, and it's the best feeling vinyl that I've ever had, certainly. And the CD's the same. We got that done at the Sony plant, and it's all very kind of high quality stuff. So you can buy this stuff through the SIIGA website, which is just siga.co.uk, and you can also, we've got like Shopify links on our Spotify and
okay.
through social media and stuff as well. So yeah, we'll be regularly dropping stuff in terms of like short run merch, but the record itself is available now, and we've been very lucky. We've already shifted quite a number of them, so they seem to be pretty popular. We've had people buying this actually particularly the vinyl, that don't even have a vinyl player because they think they
Then
feel like it's just such a kind of nice piece of work, and it's like a
yeah,
cool, this is a cool thing, you know, and cool things don't really exist that much anymore, you know. It's like, so we're making kind of stuff that people want to collect, which is
yeah,
nice, you know.
that kind of keep the nostalgia burnt. I think you're
Exactly.
adding a new genre, like a new genre, not genre of music, like theme of the music.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say, you know, I've had a lot of influence from things of the past, but I've tried to make it into something that feels, the whole concept of that record was to try and make something that felt like it could have been equally from the past and from the future at the same time, you
Exactly.
know? So that was kind of, that was the sort of feeling
That's
behind it. But
like I said, I'm not gonna spoil that video that is gonna, but even see that future video that will be released. There's a lot of present and past, and like in future, like no past and future. Sorry, that people can identify, especially.
yeah, yeah,
So
that was, yeah,
like
that
with
was
the
it, you
ending,
know.
like I don't know if it's the ending, but that's what we will see with the time, if it will be the ending.
Could be the beginning. Could be the beginning. Who knows? That's the whole idea of like time is circular. You know, we said that
Exactly.
earlier. So
Yeah.
sometimes you think to yourself, at the end of one chapter maybe is the beginning of something else, and you know that sort of seems to be
It's
infinite.
true.
I
It's true.
mean,
This work as well for
yeah,
human relationships. Sometimes you think you're ending whatever friendship, relationship, whatever it is, and you think that is the end. But maybe
mhm,
that's the beginning of something else.
something else. And a lot of the time, you know, it's until you close up something, you're not giving yourself room for for something new as well, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, with the nostalgia burns concept of being stuck in nostalgia, if you just continually live in an idea of the past, and you know, you're not going to let yourself have a future, you know.
No,
Um,
even a present.
so,
It's the present is
but I
way.
mean, the present, you know, people talk, you know, it's a very kind of trendy thing at the moment to be present, stay present, but it's true, you know, like we can let the day passes by very quickly, you know.
Present can work
Um,
when you're talking about psychology for helping you to, stay with your own head, with your thoughts in the, like, don't be scared of your thoughts, like the mindfulness, like you
yeah,
think about like here and now, you're here, but it's just, I think, for helping you to not spiraling in some moment, for avoiding, I don't know, panic attack or whatever. It's not about living all in the
mm,
present here and now forever, because no, otherwise people will never graduate, people will never find a job. We will live always in the present.
yeah, yeah. That's true. It's true.
Yeah,
It's true. I think, you know, we're in this weird time at the moment with, you know, I've just watched an article before we spoke, and it was saying that Elon Musk's become the first trillionaire, you know,
billionaire, yeah.
and I just thought, what a fucking like,
What is he gonna do?
yeah, what an well, like, I mean, what a bizarre scenario to have like one person have so much, like have so much. What world do you live in where that feels like okay to
Yeah,
you?
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
like, I
It's,
mean, fine. It's like, you know, you can convince yourself that you're doing the work of God on earth, that you're going to
oh
find a way
no,
for humanity to survive. And it's,
yeah,
you know, it's like
it's
you're
weird.
no human being is no human being's that powerful that they, you know, or has that much sense that they should be in control of that much power and money and responsibility. And you know, every day at the moment, and I'm sure it's the same for you, but you know, I'm seeing everybody struggling just now, you know,
Yeah,
like generally it's like the price of food
no,
is fucking crazy. Price of like heating
yes,
your home is fucking crazy, or air conditioning your home is fucking
yeah,
crazy, you know, or whatever it is you're doing. And you know, basic day-to-day life
exactly.
is expensive. And then we've got to sit there and look at this bullshit going on and
Yeah,
be
because
like kind of,
we can afford like to have a normal, like, basic life, and other people merely can afford to have basic life, or not even have a life, like arriving at the end of the month, maybe without even be able to pay bills. There's a lot of people here
yeah,
sad sometimes, Because people blame in Sicily a lot immigrants, but I don't think it's the problem of immigrants. It's the problem of the black labor when they
Of
pay
the what?
when they pay you under the table. So they it's not the regular job. So what they
Oh,
do,
you mean cash jobs?
yeah, like
Right.
instead of paying you, for example, let's say 15 euro per hour, they're gonna pay you 7, 6. So for example, if guys like young guys out of university, they don't do that. So who will do that job? That the man that came, I don't know, from I don't know, Nigeria, because they need to survive. So of course people are without job and they blame immigrants. And I happen to see a lot of men like my dad, they could have been like my father, searching in the trash, really like garbage. Because we don't have we have a gigantic big garbage where we can put everything. Looking for furniture, any type of clothes, any type of thing. And every time I cross that person, I say like that could be me, could be my dad. And this is thing that I think it's all over the world, but it's getting worse with the time. It's not only here. I think it's everywhere. That's why I want to run away, live
I
in
mean,
the mountain.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, governments have been convincing us all, governments and leaders have been blaming immigration for everything
yeah, I know.
for
No,
centuries. I mean, it's a lot of bollocks. It's an absolute pile of
yeah,
shit. I mean,
exactly.
you know, human beings all deserve a basic, decent life, and
Exactly.
anybody that sits there and criticizes people for trying to move somewhere in order to try
Yeah,
and like just try and have a better opportunity or get out of a situation, it's just like have a word with yourself. That's not the problem, and creating this others all the time, like it was everything, whether it was religion or whether it's race or it's sexuality, it's
exactly.
gender. So there's always a narrative that comes along that's
Yeah,
like these people over there are fucking different to
exactly.
you and therefore they're a fucking problem.
Yeah, which
And
is
so,
no.
but focus on that while we don't pay taxes and we fucking, you
I,
know, fuck around with stock markets and we make, we take all and we own your fucking medical supply. But don't worry about that because over there,
exactly.
there's this group of people that are coming to threaten
Yeah,
everything. It's
that's
just
yeah.
the oldest sleight of the hand in the book.
That's why
It's
and that's why I try to keep my voice, not avoiding, but like I do my life. I go in the night nature, stay there, and I want to just live and spend my rest of my life far from the society. That's it. I don't want to like
yeah.
yeah. That's
The sad thing about that though is that we must always remember that we need to participate because
yeah,
I've been in that situation where it's everybody wants to be able to just run away and live in the nowhere because it's so fucking hard
yeah,
and if we all just keep running away from it then it just the reason that these guys are
yeah,
getting so much power is because they just basically just run us so fucking much out of gas that we've got
exactly.
no fight left in us anymore, and we're so tired. We're all
Yeah,
tired.
I know.
Like, how are you gonna argue against somebody that's
That's a
got,
trillion.
a bottomless pit of cash and power and
Um,
and influence, and so eventually you
and
just kind of go, oh, fuck it, I just want an easy life. But that in itself is problematic. It's very hard to know what to do. I went through a period of time where I was like not watching the news, and I was just like, I
you
fucking
know,
can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to watch it. But then I had to say to myself, I need to care as well. I need to know what the fuck's going on.
maybe
You
some
know,
bits of news here and there to know what's happening in the world with the basic and all.
it's important to know what's going
Yeah,
on, but I think it's important to try your best, and it's very
yeah,
hard, but it's important to try your best to have an open and
exactly.
critical kind of mind so that you can kind of look at things objectively, and like it's why I don't necessarily agree with like, I mean, it seems to have died off, but there was a period of time where we had that cancel culture, which I kind of thought, well, if you just mute everybody that's saying things that you don't
Yeah,
agree with, you don't know where the fucking assholes are anymore. Like if you're
exactly.
gonna
No, no,
just like
totally agree.
silence, if you silence, let's take the fucking Nazis, for example, if you just silence them, it doesn't mean they
They
go
don't know.
away. It just means you
Yeah,
don't know where the fuck they are anymore. I
exactly.
want to know where I want to see where these fuckers are. I want to hear what these idiots have got to say, so
Yeah,
I can go, right, okay, well, I now know who the fuck you are. We just
exactly.
cancel and silence people who we don't agree with,
Um,
and we don't know what the fuck we're dealing with. It just becomes a silent, even more dangerous
I know.
situation because these fuckers will find each other anyway,
I know.
and
It's
so
yeah.
it
It's
is difficult.
yeah, and then in every country there's a different, of course, point of view where it's going. But like I said, it's getting at least information, even from the people that are living in those places, something that it's helpful to know. And that's a topic for another time because I cover what was going on with ICE in the United States with those guys that were
Mm.
the watchers, like in the front line, that were recording the Native Americans guy that had a lot to do with ICE. And then so I was really heavy as a doing interview with them because you had to heard all those stories from people that was living there,
Yeah.
lawyers.
There's a guy that works in this robot,
Yeah,
I mean, I won't, he was of Mexican descent in Los
yeah,
Angeles, and he was part of some of the people that worked on this.
yeah.
And during he's fucking disappeared. Nobody knows where the fuck he went. During the time that was going on, I met the guy, and he was lovely, and we kept in touch after I came back. But he's vanished, and is when the whole thing happened, when these guys arrived in LA, a lot of them fled, and they've not no one knows where the fuck they've gone.
I
No,
know.
he's gone. He's disappeared, and yeah, that's fucking mental to live in a world where that's going on. And
Where you have
you
to
know,
be taken off from your own
I just
family.
can't. I don't know. Maybe I've lived a very sheltered life, but I've traveled a good bit of this world, and I've got a few years behind me now. And I have to be honest with you that it's very fucking rare that I meet somebody that doesn't just want a nice fucking life. Like,
Yeah,
it's very rare. Most people I meet, generally speaking, strangers,
well,
even in fucking, I've been to some fucking dangerous parts of the world, and even there, I've met people who just at the core just want a fucking peaceful fucking, they don't want fucking horrible things to happen.
just
And
a
so we're led to
life.
believe that we're living it. Yeah, we're led to believe that there's
Ah,
all this, like, all these sinister people. The fucking sinister people are these
yeah,
fucks that are putting all this poison in everyone's head to tell them that everyone else is a danger to them. Like,
exactly,
it's,
exactly. Yeah.
anyway.
So we leave
On
it.
that
We
cheery
leave
note, nostalgia burns. Ouch.
nostalgia. Super happy. Okay, next time we're gonna talk about. I don't know the weather. It's gonna appear. I mean, but it's okay. Next time, don't worry. I'm gonna tell you about something Italian Sicilian history. Maybe it's more like interesting.
Yeah, you talk. You should talk. You should talk next time. I feel like I've delivered you a very somber interview this time. Last time I was talking shit about all sorts, but I think it was a bit more serious this time. But
Yeah, but
the world is serious.
it was fun, like nostalgic at the beginning, like weatherish, and then it went through the albums, and then it went through
And it is.
yeah, it's a new term,
And we
weather,
ended up with Yeah, and we
to
ended up on the
the end of the
problems
world.
with
Yeah,
blaming migration for them. Yeah, but
yeah,
we started with
yeah.
the end of the world, so we should finish with that.
It's a
Nice.
cycle, isn't it? Yeah, for now.
Exactly. Look at
Yeah,
that. It's almost like we planned it.
but we didn't. We didn't. So for for now, I must have to run. And it was a really pleasure having this again this chat with you, Richard. And
You
whenever
too.
there are things to announce, let me know. We take a
I'll
day
be
off,
back for sure. We'll
even if
take another day off.
now.
Yeah, we'll check in. Maybe we'll check in in the autumn a wee bit sooner this time than the last time. I've got a lot of stuff coming
Of
out over
course,
the summer with this, so things will have moved on a fair bit by then, I expect. So it might be
of
something more to
course.
talk about then.
Yeah, we take a day off,
That's
and
right.
then we will be here
Take a day off.
with the
Well,
I mean,
you get yourself out in that. Listen, you get yourself out in that sunshine for a
a
few
little bit
hours now.
of
You've
vitamin
been
D. Yeah, it's of
vitamin D, yeah.
yeah.
Fucking sitting in there, sitting in there like Count Dracula, man. Get the curtains open. Fucking be like,
40 degrees, please. I'm gonna. I'm living with air conditioner like almost every day. So I'm gonna jump in the
Joel,
car.
I tell you, we started with the weather, we'll finish with. I'm looking right there
Ah,
behind you. I'm looking at there's just rain just smashing off my windows.
give a little bit of that. Here was smashing seagulls, so I don't know what's worth smashing. So
I'll tell you what, then we should do. They have that thing where you can swap, like house swap. You can come and stay in my
yeah,
apartment here, and I'll go and stay in there.
I have a big house. You can take whatever place you can sleep in close to the balcony to the other side when there is more sun. Here, just less sun.
Sounds perfect.
It's okay. We have it. Okay, so I
I
wish.
don't. I just live in this room, and my bed's behind there, and my fucking
I
kitchen.
do not. This was my grandma house. That's why I have lived here, thanks to her.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So thank you for the time, Richard, and it was a really pleasure talking with you again. And we said everything we have to say, and people can. I will divide in chapter, I guess, to people to understand where to go to look at. And thank you so
Good
much.
luck with that. You're welcome. I'll see you soon.
Bye, Richard. Bye.
Cheers.